I wanted noted that Emily has requested that we move items 12 and 13 up in the consent agenda. At the time when we start working with the consent agenda, we will have to have a council vote in order to do that. And I'm just stating that to you now. And then I'll go with roll call.
Mayor, just for point of order, if we could actually have, because to move the items to the agenda requires you stating that you're willing to move them and then a confirmation by the majority of the council. So we'll actually ask that that roll call be done before. So if we could do that now, that procedurally, that'd be
That'd
great.
be fine.
Okay. So again, the request was to move items 12 and 13, which are the union grievance filed by Officer Nick Yaniff, as well as the discussion on the municipal buildings and fire station project options, to immediately follow the consent agenda.
Thank you for the wordage.
Yep.
So I guess I need a motion.
Well, we can skip to just roll call.
Okay.
Since it's mayor's choice and then confirmation of council.
Can we,
Do you
can we
have to do-
discuss that at all? Oh,
Hey,
sorry.
do you do roll call before that or no?
Not before discussion, no.
Okay. Okay, we're having some Nancy or Emily. Emily, we're having,
I'm having trouble. Hold on one second. Can you hear me now?
yeah, it's still got feedback.
Weird.
Going through a tunnel.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it sounds fine.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I would
You
request that
wanna-
we move agenda items 12 and 13 to the beginning of the meeting in case I lose reception.
Okay, motion made by Neil,
Second.
seconded by Whittle. Any further discussion? We will,
I guess I would prefer to leave those later in the agenda. We have a couple of people here for other items earlier, and I think those will take a long time to discuss 12 and 13. And I hate to see other people have to sit here for throughout the discussion of those if their thing only takes a few minutes to discuss those.
What are those?
Number 7, resolution for final plan of High Point East. We have a gentleman here that wants to be here for that one. I don't think that one will take too long, so
Can we do 7, then 12, then 13?
after 7, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 7, 12,
Yeah.
13.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's here for any of the other ones. Unless they are.
Everything else is pretty much straightforward then.
Right, that's what I thought too. Those would go pretty quick. But
Yeah.
okay, so the discussion is to move them after number 7, correct?
That's fine.
Then do we need a new motion, Travis?
If Neil and Will are both open to a friendly amendment, follow item 7.
yes.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call?
Neil,
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Misselinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel.
Motion carried. No, you don't have to do you have to do roll call then?
Sure. Parker.
You can
Here.
do your,
Misselinich.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Zittergruen.
Here.
Chisel.
Here.
Whittle.
Here.
Neil.
Here.
okay, public comment. If anyone who wishes to come before the council with a public comment, they can do so at this time. Limit is approximately 3 minutes. Step up to the podium, state your name and your comment. Sure. I got that down where you can speak into that microphone.
Yeah, I think so.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Joanne Aggie. I live at 501 Winneshiek down here, and I'm here for a request for the city removal of a huge maple tree on the boulevard. We had two of them out there 4 years ago, July 28th, 22. The severe storm that night took one and put it on top of our house, completely covering a third of our house, ceilings, roof on down to the ground. It damaged our place very severely, but it also affected our neighbor's place. It was on their roof, and fortunately, no damage. The city did not pay. Farm Bureau Insurance took good care of the whole thing. They paid everything to the companies that took the tree down and to Finn Holt that had an extra lift to get up as high because the tree was unbelievably big and tall. And so now they warned me before they left the tree service to keep an eye on the adjoining, the sister maple, the two huge old maples. And I've been watching the change in the last 4 years. And last year and this year, there's been noticeable difference. And I've had a lot of different people look and different opinions, of course, but I want it down. I've had to lower my Farm Bureau insurance because of all the storms around the country. They have had to increase rates, and I had to get mine down. So Farm Bureau also will not pay any more damages that occurred like mine, with the city responsible for taking down the tree. I've done research on all of this, and I now have this neighbor to be concerned about also, because this tree, the second maple, would damage my home again and also her home. So I can't take the responsibility, so I'm done with that responsibility. And I have requested, and I have put in, this is a sixth request, I believe, for the appropriate concerns to deal with it. But I also have talked to Travis several times because he was aware of the tree damage when we had ours down. In fact, he took down a really good tree 2 or 3 weeks after for fear of having his happen that happened to ours. So I need to have help and background on this. I have had no response from several requests. So the next step was to take it to the council and have you here. I have been told that I was on the list of people wanting trees down. That's true. I've been told also that they're out of money, which is rather hilarious when you see all the news right now with all the millions of dollars. And my concern is, as a senior citizen, or any citizen really, I think you need to be concerned about a few individual things around the town as well. So my request is official to you. This was the next step, and I don't know beyond that what to do. I've been to a lawyer just for advice on how to proceed with this stuff. And since nothing has happened to the tree yet, I'm not willing to go and check it out for this year because there's been distinct damage on the tree these last 2 years. So I would like it off and gone. And
Okay.
this happened to be Nordic Fest time when the first one went down.
Right.
So we even ended up having to
Okay.
do the cleanup and all. Yes,
Okay.
Travis.
Oh, I
Maybe-
just.
You usually get,
Keeper, so we're at
you
3.
usually get 3 minutes.
Pardon?
You usually get 3 minutes, so.
Okay. All right.
My question to Travis is, what is the process for her to?
So, based on our city code as well, we get input from the city forester that evaluates the trees, as was conveyed tonight. The tree is on a list of to be taken down eventually, but it is not listed as an immediate threat of concern. We've also had additional, not just our own forester, we did actually reach out to other arborists as well that are tree contractors in the community, and did have them respond back in a similar fashion that it is not of an immediate concern to come down, but
Yes, it is.
could be something for us to take down in the future.
So what would the council request it to be taken down and then list the timeline for that?
That would be for all of you to reach out to me individually, because now we're getting onto the operation side of things. And it
Okay.
certainly could be a council item in the future, but that was something that you
Okay.
would all reach out to me individually.
So we would actually just pass this on to be voted on or
You would
decided?
convey your thoughts on it to me individually. So
Okay.
not, for the public's benefit, it's not, you're
I
just going
gotcha.
to
I've got you.
staff issue. Let me know your
No,
thoughts.
I understand.
I
Okay,
have-
since this is a public comment, we do not do any discussing or any discussing or communication. What we do is we take it under advisement, and then when the council comes up, they will suggest what should be done.
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
But I want you to know that I have been in contact with 3 tree companies also, and I've had estimates and everything. And there's a varying opinion with those too. I'm not
Okay.
willing to go through the winter with the big fall storms coming and all.
Okay,
I cannot do anything other than to ask for the
okay,
removal of the tree.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Mhm.
listening. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you.
Can I ask for clarification on that?
No, she's asking.
What's that?
Travis, you said this isn't really council purview, right? This is operations. So you're just looking for us to contact you individually.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else? Hearing, seeing none. City manager, department head, and council reports.
Okay, one of the largest thing to bring up is that the Iowa DOT Highway 9 rock blasting discussion, John Yelly and myself had virtual meeting, a couple email exchanges with DOT representatives. They, I had forwarded the emailed response from the DOT. They do not do this, the alternate as a potential option so that we could look at the DOT awarding, but holding off on our portion. And also they will not do it for this project because it would include facets of redesign should we not move forward with the rock blasting. That would change their overall design, so they would need to change what they would put out to bid. With that being said, in our meetings with them, they looked at the engineer's estimate and they said, you know, we talked about at the last meeting that we are now a separate division within their project, which means we have traffic control and mobilization. Now that's part of our project. They said you can go ahead and reference and say, use the DOT's traffic control and it won't be a bid item for us. The mobilization, they pointed at and said that is too high for a DOT bid project. That might be maybe the case for local, but you need to lower your mobilization estimate cost. In addition to that, they also provided us 2 recently bid rock numbers that we didn't have available previously, which kicked out one of the outliers. We don't want to talk too much about public unit pricing, of course, because people could reference this when they place their bid, but that brought the engineer's estimated cost, or excuse me, opinion of probable cost. Is that right, John? Opinion of probable cost. They're different. To less than the 60% review number of $320,000 total project costs. So with that being said, again, reach out to me, let me know your thoughts so that we can potentially either go back to the DOT on it. Otherwise, they might request formal council action, in which case may have to do a special meeting if it doesn't align with their timeline or not.
So the council should reach out to you and,
Correct.
okay. Do you have anything else?
Let's see. I believe that was it. That'll be it for me, just as a
Okay.
item of note. Item 5, Northeast Iowa Housing Trust Fund update. That individual is sick and will not be in attendance tonight, so we'll have to reschedule that item.
Okay. Council reports. Cody, Oh.
Mayor, if I may.
sorry.
For the department reports.
Yeah,
We have Assistant Chief Mike Ashbacker here. He was going to give a little bit on the fire department side of things.
Okay.
If you're
That's
up with
fine.
that.
sorry.
Nope, you're all right.
Just a few quick numbers. We ended our fiscal year end of September. Our fiscal year runs, our fiscal year runs 10/1/24 to 9/30/25. And the numbers that I have now are reflective during that time period. Currently, we sit at 30 members, 5 probationary, and then that also includes our 3 engineers. We'll be running a firefighter 1 course this fall. for those 5 probationary members. During that time period, we had 1,790 personnel hours for incident response and 2,628 personnel hours for training, for a total of 4,418 hours for that time period. We had 142 total calls. 70 of those calls were in the city, 71 were in the rural, and 1 was out of county. We gave mutual aid 4 times. We received mutual aid once. Of the mutual aid that we gave aid on, 3 were structure fires, 1 was a motor vehicle crash. The most popular times, it seems for us to get called, is between 2 and 5 p.m. and then again at 8 at night till 9 at night. We do have every hour of every day, we do have responses throughout that time. And our biggest days of the week are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 25 calls each. And then Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, in that order, with most to least. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Like I said, we will start that training this fall. We do have 2 instructors lined up to do that training in-house, so we don't have to send our personnel away from here to do that. So. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Anything else from the department heads? Okay. Cody.
In the last couple of weekends, I'd like to give a shout out to the Pride festivities over 2 weekends ago. I thank Steve for inviting us all to walk along in the parade. It was an honor to do so as a public official. And also last weekend, I want to give a shout out to the No Kings rally. A lot of people showed up for it. It was nothing but friendly community involvement. And people are just trying to figure out what they can do. I mean, I stood here and swore an oath to uphold the Iowa Constitution and the United States Constitution, and it seems like there's just been blatant disregard for that in the current administration. So I think that the protests are going to continue. Whether or not they do anything is up for debate, but it is at least a good way to get people together and just feel like we're trying to positively influence things. So both of those events I was proud to be a part of, and it really speaks to the authenticity and the caring of our community.
Thank you. Randy?
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Steve?
Nothing, thanks.
Kirsten?
I've been out of town most off and on the last couple of weeks, so I haven't been to any meetings or anything like that, but I would like to remind everybody that November 4th, we do have an election coming up. While I know most of the people in the city are running unopposed for their positions, they would certainly appreciate your vote and your support. Beyond that, we have 2 bond referendums that will be on that. One is for the library. If you use the library, you know what an outstanding organization we have up there and what a outstanding facility that is. It is in need of some repair, so please get out and vote for that. We'll also have a bond referendum for the fire station, and I think everybody knows how good our fire department is and how much work they put in. They're mostly volunteers, so we need your support on that as well to get them the facility that will allow them to continue to do the great job they do. So everybody get out and vote November 4th. Absentee ballot has started, I think, the 15th, so it's available right now up at the auditor's office. And then on November 4th itself, you can vote at your voting station. Again, go into the auditor's office and it'll let you know where you have to go vote. So please get out and vote.
Christopher?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Brent?
I have nothing.
Carrie?
Emily?
Thank you, Emily. Emily?
I want to echo Cody's sentiments on the Pride Festival and to thank Councilperson Zittigren for arranging the elected officials float that day. So thank you. I wasn't at the No Kings March, but I do echo Councilperson Whittle's sentiments about upholding the Constitution, and I do believe, as local government, we have a responsibility to do that. I also echo Kirsten's sentiments in terms of getting out to vote on November 4th. And I also would like to let folks know that tomorrow night, I believe at 8 p.m., the school board is having a special meeting. I think it would be great for as many council people to go, given the site plan and how much it deviates from our original visioning session that we hosted before we bought the land, or before we sold the land to the school board. I'm sure people have seen my posts, but also the recent letter that several council people wrote in regards to this. So I think it would be good for council to keep an eye on what's happening. I have gotten several letters from community members who are frustrated that they didn't know that the site plan would look so different from what had been discussed originally. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Now on to the consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the October 10, 2025 council meeting. B, claims. C, tax abatement at 709 Washington Street, new construction, Robert and Virginia Bodensteiner. D, Decorah 2025 Highland Street Improvement Project, pay application number 5. E, award of Decorah 2025 Street Crack Sealing Project to Driveway Specialists LLC. F, resolution approving pay application number 4 for the Decorah Municipal Airport Conventional Hangar with Attached Terminal Project. G, resolution transferring funds from emergency fund to general fund. H, resolution transferring funds from the Trail Maintenance Fund to to Carlson Park Fund. I, resolution transferring funds from the General Fund and Trail Maintenance Fund to the Decorah Athletic Complex Fund. J, issue notice of accepting sealed bids for agricultural land lease on airport property. K, reappointment of Mark Mugley, Kathy Buzza, Adrian Caffeine, and Judy Vanderlinden to the Decorah Historic Preservation Commission. And L, new Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service, Your Place, which is new ownership.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Ms. Linich. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Olson.
Aye.
Miss Linich.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Consider resolution approving final plat of High Point East Fourth Edition, Phase 1. Can you give some background on that, please? And please remember to get the microphone really close. I did have another comment about the audio, so
Okay. Swap sides here then.
that would be perfect. Thank you.
All right. So City Code Section 16.04.100 requires submittal of a final plat that conforms substantially to the preliminary plat as approved. It must be received within 10 years of the date of the Planning and Zoning Commission approving the preliminary plat. City Code Section 1604.140 requires that commission to act as soon as possible, but no more than 45 days after receipt of the plat, make recommendation to council. The city has received a final plat from Mike Kelly of High Point East LLC for High Point East 4th Edition Phase 1. The proposed subdivision will create 8 residential lots along a new street as part of the preliminary plat for Phase 1 that was approved originally at the August 14th, 2017 meeting and then subsequently amended March 11th, 2019 meeting. The difference in time between the preliminary plat approval and final plat approval has resulted in some comments regarding plat submittal. The city engineers provided their review in full letter and included in Dropbox as file 7E. So I'm going to go a little off script here and give a little further background. So the reason code allows for 10 years between preliminary plat and final plat submittal is way back when the actual traditional way of subdivision developments within Decorah, as well as nearly everywhere else, was you approved a preliminary plat, the developer went out, placed all the infrastructure, it was reviewed, yes, it's done in conformance with the preliminary plat as it's been approved, then you accept the final plat for the creation of the legal boundaries of each individual lot. And that's what allows the developer to turn around and sell the lots. However, the city of Decorah, as well as most other communities, have changed their subdivision ordinance to allow those two to run simultaneously, which is what we have seen typically as of late because of the large costs associated with infrastructure to go in for these projects. So what we see typically is the subdeveloper needs to sell lots off as part of the revenue for the subdivision. And so our subdivision ordinance has a relatively new requirement in there that if given financial assurances, then you can approve the final plat prior to the actual infrastructure going in the ground. And the city has received that in the form of an irrevocable line of credit through Decorah Bank and Trust. Again, that's a similar format that the city has done with our more recent subdivisions, including the VA clinic, which we will consider accepting the street infrastructure as part of that project as well. So that's where I was going off script a little bit. So again, the difference in timing has resulted in some code changes that have happened since 2017, and then subsequently again 19 when it was amended. But many of these notations are preliminary plat related because they're based on infrastructure, and some are simply notations. So I'll go through the first one, lot numbering. Lot numbers differ between preliminary plat and final plats, but they align with projects phasing at this point. 2, stormwater management. No stormwater management plan was submitted. One is now required under current code, but at the time of the preliminary plat approval, it was not. Temporary cul-de-sac. Temporary cul-de-sacs recommended at the south end of Lettermore Road for safe access and maintenance. Again, this is an infrastructure that's already been approved in the preliminary plat. It's a recommendation made on behalf of the developer, essentially, that we're saying you should do this. Street grades. Proposed street slopes exceed 10% limit, but match existing terrain and neighboring roads. Setbacks, building setbacks per R2 zoning apply, but are missing from the submitted site plans. This is one that typically we might say this should be a requirement, but as council's aware, P&Z is actively discussing our setback requirements as a result of that ADU change. So we would not recommend because now those lines become part of the plat and those lines might shift. Wellhead protection, item 6, a private well and related lines on lot 5 require easement verification and compliance with DNR separation standards. So that's a notation for the developer. Item 7, survey markers. Developer must protect or restore all survey markers per Iowa Code 355.6A. Again, a notation. And then 8, street design. East Hills Road is proposed without curbs. Drainage and safety issues require coordination with the county engineer. Now, East Hills Road, that is part of the preliminary plat. The infrastructure itself has already been approved, but it does intersect with East Ridge Road, and so that coordination needs to happen with the county engineer. And item 9, sidewalks. Sidewalks are planned, but an alternate route had been requested and again approved as part of that preliminary plat. City should plan for logical pedestrian connections. 10, street lights. 2 lights are planned, but relocation and additional light are recommended for better illumination and safety. Again, this is an infrastructure. It's been approved with 2, but it was noted that a 3rd would be beneficial. Excuse me. And then street signs, item 11, developer must install required street signs, no outlet, yield, speed limit, and then must obtain city council approval for that regulatory signage, yield, stop required, so we can amend our code. No contingencies are recommended being added, as most items are simply notations and others are specific to the preliminary plat, which has already been approved. Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval of the final plat.
Motion to approve the resolution approving final plat of High Point East, 4th edition, phase 1.
I'll second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Ms. Linich. Further discussion? Hearing none? Roll call?
Olson,
Aye.
Miscelinich,
Aye.
Zergren, Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carried. I will now go to item 12 on the agenda. Discussion and possible action on Officer Yenof's grievance under collective bargaining agreement regarding duty and shift assignments. Can you give some background on that, please, Travis?
Sure. I'll give background, but since this is a grievance about about a decision that I was a part of, John will lead the council's discussion as well. So action is possible, but it's not required. Per the collective bargaining agreement, the city council may discuss the grievance with Officer Yaniv, but has 10 days from filing. Emails were sent directly to council members on Monday, October 13th in response to the grievance. Otherwise, the grievance is viewed as a denial. Since this is not a disciplinary matter, it is not eligible for closed session under Iowa Code Chapter 21.51I, professional competency. There's also nothing under Iowa Code Chapter 20, which covers collective bargaining, that allows for a grievance to be done in closed session.
So everybody should have received a copy of the grievance filed by the officer, and I think you have that. The grievance procedure is covered by Article 14 of the collective bargaining agreement. And I just, as a reminder, in this setting, the word grievance is defined as wherever used in this agreement shall mean any difference between the employer and the union or any employee with regard to the interpretation, application, or violation of any of the expressed terms and provisions of this agreement. And Officer Yaniv has gone through, or he's at step 3. So he appealed to his immediate supervisor. His grievance was denied, appealed to the department head. His grievance was denied. So per the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the next step is the city council. You can refer to Officer Yaniv's written grievance. That's the basic document here where he says, for adjustment required, acceptance of my canine handler position, resignation, and right to bid shift based on seniority according to Article 9, Section 7. So the two key articles that the council must interpret for purposes of this grievance are Article 3, which deals with management rights. And most of these management rights are a recitation of what's in Iowa Code Chapter 20 for the most part. And you'll see that in the chief's response, she cited to Article 3, Section 1, paragraphs A, C, E, and F. And then Officer Yaniv is particularly concerned about his assignment as canine handler is preventing him from bidding a preferable shift. He has seniority based upon his years of service for that shift. However, in the collective bargaining agreement, you'll see in Article 9, Section 7, paragraph D6, the provisions regarding 1, the right to bid a shift based upon seniority, and then the exception that's at the end of that paragraph regarding officers with special duties. So when I look at it, and the council's free to frame this however they want within the confines of Officer Yaniv's grievance and the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, I look at it as the council should look at 2 questions. May management involuntarily assign an officer to a specialized duty? And an alternative way of asking that, maybe in Officer Yaniv's situation, is may an officer unilaterally decide to no longer work a special duty assignment? And number two, may a police officer with a special duty assignment based on seniority bid an open work shift schedule pursuant to Article 9, Section 7, Paragraph D6, when management determines that the special duty assignment is more beneficial to the department and the community during a different shift schedule? So that may sound long, but those are, that's the gist of what is at issue here. And I guess I would, it's Officer Yaniv is in the audience with his bargaining representative. Have I stated anything that you think needs to be addressed or corrected? Or is that the correct statement of the issues? Okay.
Can you have him come to a microphone? Because I won't be able to hear.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the bargaining representative concurred with my statement of the issues.
Okay.
Can I ask just a couple questions?
If you're talking into the mic, you can.
You are.
Sure, I know. I
You're
can't
all
help
about
it.
this mic.
Mhm.
Just to clarify, is special assignment required for employment with the police department
You're asking me?
or anybody? Yeah, anybody.
Is special duty assignment. According to Iowa law and the collective bargaining agreement, management has the right to manage the employer's operations and to direct the working force, and the right to assign work, and the right to determine methods and materials to be used, including the right to introduce new and improved methods or facilities. So, yes, I think an employer has the right, subject to any limiting terms in a collective bargaining agreement, to assign special duties. So that's my interpretation of Iowa code. And I don't think the collective bargaining agreement says anything to the contrary.
Just for a point of clarification, from what I understand, with the new hires that they have that have come on, that they have been looking at all of the schedules and have been working hard at attempting to make some adjustments. Is that correct? Maybe I'll ask Travis that.
So the timeline on when the schedule adjustments were put out to bid and then subsequently set was included in the packet sent to council. And I believe that was roughly 3 weeks before the date listed on the grievance, which, let's see here. I was trying to remove myself as much as possible from
Sorry,
this
I
because
only wanted a
the
point of
grievance against the decision
clarification.
I made, so.
Right. I only wanted a point of clarification for it.
I have a question. So the canine officer is essentially like an officer, correct? So they have a shift. But my question is, my understanding when I read through the information is that there's a 3-year commitment required. And I guess in my mind, the issue we have is we have an officer who has senior priority, who is now being essentially forced into what seems like a lifetime commitment to an assignment that isn't really like a special assignment per se, as we might think of other assignments. It's a little bit different, and it's called out in the contract as such because it has a 3-year commitment to it, of which I believe this Officer Yanos have fulfilled.
Emily, I'm just going to point out, I think you're referring to the Lexipol canine policy, which yes, is the current policy, I believe, unless the chief corrects me on that. But it, whether or not it matters, it was adopted after Yanov became the canine officer. and that particular part you're referring to, I think it says it's a minimum.
It's eligibility section
They have to,
or selection,
where is it at?
handler selection.
Training. Sorry, I just want to find it so we can quote it directly. Handler selection is in section 310.8. The minimum qualifications for the assignment of a canine handler include A, an officer who is currently off probation, B, residing in an adequately fenced single-family residence, C, a garage that can be secured and can accommodate a canine vehicle, D, living within 30 minutes travel time from the Decorah city limits, and E, agreeing to be assigned to the position for a minimum of 3 years. So it does say a minimum of 3 years, doesn't have any maximum, but it does have that part to it.
Right. So, I mean, technically, Officer Yanov could have moved, and would we have been required then to release him from the police force? I mean, would we have had fired him if he moved? Would we have, if he moved a house and didn't have a garage or a fence? I mean, if his life circumstances had changed, would we still then hold him to the canine commitment?
I think I defer to the chief on that. I think that would present practical difficulties, and you would have to look at, okay, if that officer agreed to be assigned to this position for a minimum of 3 years, I don't know that this is a contractual obligation, but
No.
it's saying you also agree to these conditions. But
Which
yeah.
I think that is what I'm asking, because I feel like Officer Yanov has agreed to those conditions for 3 years. I think it is unreasonable for us to think that an officer can foresee the future. And there wasn't, I mean, I'll let other council people talk for sure, but I do feel like he has fulfilled his obligations to the canine unit, and in a shift switch, much like if he moved, it no longer fits with his ability to do the shift. And I think he's got the seniority in order to be able to bid a shift.
Emily, let me ask you a question. You said a lifetime commitment. Are you referring to his lifetime or the dog's lifetime?
The dog's lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess how I look at it is I'm going to be very open. I think, I'm going to support Nick on this. I think two things can be right at the same time. You may be able to direct somebody's work in a department, right? But it's not just Nick. That dog could be directed to go to anybody, but that's not necessarily the case. And I think when you start forcing these extra duties that aren't really mandated by us having to have them, it's kind of a luxury thing that we have. When you start directing those people to do those jobs that no longer fit for their lifestyle and their commitment and their families, that does nothing for the dog. It does nothing for the officer. It does nothing for the morale of the police department and that dog out on the street. So I think that, as we kind of look at it, I do think that if it no longer fits Nick's abilities to, not abilities is not the right word, but fit his needs at this time, we should seriously think about like this special assignment no longer fits for him. And I think with any special assignment, if you have a special assignment, regardless of what it is, if it's no longer in part of your want and ability to do that, I think the department should work with him to, find another solution besides forcing somebody to continue to do it.
Yeah,
I guess the issue I have is you say find another solution for it. What would that other solution be? I mean, I don't think it's fair to the dog to ask it to go to another handler. I think that creates real issues with the dog. And the city and other people around the community have invested dollars, a great deal of dollars into revamping a vehicle for this, the dog, getting it trained, things like that. And I think when you make that commitment to be a canine officer, you're making the commitment for the lifetime of that dog. You understand that that's what goes along with it. That's a responsibility that you have to take on when you do that. And I think you owe it to the department and the people that have put the money up to continue on with that dog until the dog gets retired from that. And then at that point in time, you can choose to move on to a different position or be open to take other positions.
and I just want to, and I'm not trying to interrupt, it just fits what Kirsten said. I think that we have a responsibility as well as a city to our officers. And since I have been on council, one of the biggest issues we have had is retention in our department. And I think that Officer Yanis has been loyal to us, and there is a certain amount of loyalty that we need to show him. In the same way that he could have equally just left, right? I don't like my shift, I'm going to go elsewhere. And then we would have not had all the investments not only in the canine, but also in Officer Yanoff. So yes, we've invested in the dog, but my guess is we have invested far more in Officer Yanoff than we have in the dog.
Other council comments, please?
I agree with both of those things. I also support Nick in his decision.
Do you want to, I'm going to do it to you too.
Oh, yeah. Talking in
Right
the
up
microphone. Sorry. With all due respect, I would like to echo what Emily said about retention and keeping good officers here. Also, I sympathize with the fact that his kids are both 2 and 4, and for the rest of the life of the dog, which could be 7 more years, I think that is a if it's going to be a permanent shift situation, then I think that's a lot of lost time, and I think that there should be some way around that. I also agree with what Kirsten said about, I mean, I love animals and dogs, and I know that you probably love Loki and your dog. I would rather see it get the canine be used during the day rather than the night shift, where it can be utilized to have the community connection. I know that there was an involvement with DARE with the kids at school. I personally would like to see the dog be utilized during the day rather than the nighttime. I think that priorities for myself, as well as probably vast majority of my constituents, would rather see the dog used as a community connective, I guess, character that does serve the purpose of drug enforcement, but not being the top priority of that dog. I would rather see it be used for the community, the drug abuse resistance during the day with kids, that kind of thing. So I support the wanting to get out of it, but I would rather see it be continued, but during the shift that is during the day.
Next count, let's go with an
Okay.
council person. Any other council persons that want to contribute?
Well, I get what I would like to know, because this was controversial when it was brought up 4 years ago, and it wasn't unanimous in its support because we already had a canine unit in the county that was being utilized by all law enforcement in the county and without any denials. How many times has this dog and Officer Yanoff, how many times have you guys been out on a call or out on a search and made a drug bust, if you will, if this is a drug dog, where the county dog was not brought in?
Debate, please.
They're big on microphones.
Yeah, sorry, I'm big on microphones tonight.
So I can't give you a definite number there.
I mean, I don't need that ballparkish because at the time, there was, I can't even remember if it was like one a month or 1.5 a month that the sheriff's dog was being called out by all law enforcement in the county.
Yeah, so I think that, like you said, it's hard to give a number, even an approximation of a number, because there are a lot of factors that go into that of whether the county dog is available. It is nice having 2 dogs in the county. I mean, I think that it's a huge asset to this county to have 2 dogs. But you do have to look into people's rights. You have to look into timing. You have to look into who's available and what the call and the nature of the call is. And I think that the Wenatchee County Sheriff's Office dog serves a similar but also different purpose with having the apprehension training that is applied to that dog as well. So I know that that's, like I said, I'm not sure if I can give you an answer there or even an approximation of a number. I believe that I want to say this year I want to say playing it safe, at least 28 deployments, going to different counties. I just did a deployment at the Upper Iowa University in Fayette, Iowa, just earlier this week as well, at request from them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So that, just a minute, question. The main purpose of the dog is to be employed as the dog that goes to look when you have an issue, not the education as a community, correct?
Right. So I think that, I mean, I think when we set up this canine program, there were obviously different advantages to having a canine. He is a narcotics detection dog. That's what he is. He also has article recovery. So you drop your cell phone somewhere, we can go and look for it. He's got a tracking facet to him. He also is great around people. He hates other dogs, great around people. So that is something to where, yes, when I was working there during the day shift, it was great to be able to get him out and to be able to have students see him. They always really enjoyed that, and it kind of made Loki a household name. But there are different aspects to a dog.
Okay. Other council people?
Can I just say,
Hey, Emily, we haven't heard from every council person yet.
no,
So
but
if
I
you
was,
can hold that.
it was about what would the purpose of the dog question.
I know, but
Okay.
I think he answered it fairly well, but I want to hear from other council people first. Steve?
This is unlike a lot of questions that come before us. A lot of times our role as a council is to determine what we discern is in the best interest of the people we serve. Kind of blank slate. We get to kind of, and this question is a question about what the words that we've agreed with Officer Yaniv and the union say and how we interpret them as an elected body. And so, I appreciated John's email earlier, kind of trying to boil down the issues for us into 2, and we got a lot of emails about this, so I'm trying to find the right one. Basically, can management involuntarily assign an officer to a specialized duty is kind of one question. I have a question for maybe John, maybe Officer Yaniv too, about it. The nature of the canine work with the new schedule has changed pretty significantly. It seems like to me, to what extent can we interpret that as being a kind of new specialized duty? I mean, it seems like the work of being a nighttime canine resource officer and being a sort of swing shift or mixed shift daytime, nighttime canine resource officer, those are 2 different specialized duties. So is there a change here? I mean, is there something substantial that the city did in terms of this new schedule that changes the nature of the work?
I would defer to the chief on that. I mean, that's her area of expertise, and that's what she does in directing the department, and she's the one that could speak to that.
So that's one question I have is the nature of this change in roles so substantial that, it's an effective reassignment. I know that isn't necessarily but that's a question I have about this. Are we uh, I don't want to interfere with what it seems clear that the city agreed to with the union, that there's a lot of latitude given to management to decide what your work consists of when you do it within, the agreements we've outlined with union, what tools you use, how you accomplish your work. Like, those are things that are up to the chief in terms of the agreement that we made with our union represented employees. I just wonder if, is this the same specialized duty that Nick signed up for 5 years ago? That's the question I have.
Do you want the chief to speak
Yeah,
to
I'm
that?
curious about that.
I believe it is a same specialized duty. It's just on a different shift. It is a drug dog who is used to find drugs. It is a dog that is used to track. So is it the same assignment? Yes, the hours have shifted, but there were a lot of reasonings behind the accommodations for that shift. On day shift, it was used with DARE primarily. And when that no longer was an Officer Yanif assignment, then his shift, he moved to evenings. We've had subsequent discussions that the evening shift didn't work for him because of it fluctuates. It is a bouncing shift. That is a difficult shift and kind of the nature of the beast of a 3 to 3 shift, because you bounce up to cover days if somebody takes time off, or bounce down to cover nights if somebody takes time off. And that was problematic. So in developing this schedule, trying to take people's asks and wants into consideration and the best deployment of resources we had, to give the best coverage we had for this city and allow coverage for night shift officers as well. This was a shift in schedule from 3 to 3 to 5 to 5. With the hour off that you get for canine handling per shift, instead of getting off at 3 or potentially 2, you would get off at 4 instead of 5. So it was a minor shift. And again, the schedule made in consideration of conversations that we had about certain things that were not appealing from the 3 to 3 shift. So again, not having that DARE responsibility, moving that dog off of the day shift where it can be in a high traffic volume environment, and more access to be utilized as the drug dog that he is.
Could you also, I asked the question about the work that's been done to adjust shifts because of the new people that are on. And can you report kind of what you worked at? Because it's not just his, it's other people that are on that, have had to change also. And is it because of the new people that are on, and how do you balance that from day to night?
There are pieces of that have to be considered, of course, but it's a reevaluation of the work product and the time spent as we are reassigning somebody from an investigative role. Could we articulate we had 40 hours of investigative work, or is that officer's development of leading shifts and taking a more supervisory role with the shift more developmental for him, and he could still lead in investigations and teach skills rather than taking on other people's work and doing the investigation. So that was one schedule that changed. With the new guys, we had to consider how long will somebody be in field training? What's the expected or projected date? I think by contract, we have to give 2 weeks notice to a schedule change. I understand people have families. We put the schedule out in August that did not go into effect till November 1st to accommodate changes and decisions that families have to make. So the assistant chief and I worked on this schedule for months before putting it out. We sought input and advice. And really at the end of the day, after we had the schedule made and we had asked for shift assignment requests, we just looked at the best deployment of resources that we have in a 13-person agency to cover the city and offer backup to the people that are working to the best of our ability.
And you did change also the assistant chief for various reasons too, correct?
Yes, to be support for our night shift supervisors, our night shift sergeants. I'm on day shift Monday through Friday. Captain Groth is on day shift. And so the assistant chief has moved down to a 3 to 11 shift to again offer that additional support to our night shift supervisors. So there have been significant changes in the schedule. And again, none of them made lightly, but really just trying to consider how we support our people the best we can, and still serve the community to the best of our ability.
Okay. I'm gonna
Can I-
ask her.
Can I ask a question?
Can I do one thing? Can I hear from Christopher first and then go to Emily, please? Do you want to just stay there a minute?
Yeah, so, to the point that Steve made, this isn't a conversation point that we are, put in many times. I do want to ask a clarifying question just based on some of the information we received. I know a solution was mentioned. Like there may not have been one, but I do believe that in the sense that, correct me if I'm wrong, based on the information we received, there's nobody else that's trained right now to take on this special assignment. And the next training for that would be in March, correct?
Yes, this is not like if you have somebody who's taken on a sniper role for your department where you could take their rifle and put it in a safe and walk away, come back 3 years later, oil it, clean it, adjust the sights, and somebody else after they've had training could go out and shoot the gun and it's going to shoot. This is a perishable set of skills in this dog, and it takes somebody that has training. So there has been a solution offered of, February of 2026, staff could be reevaluated. We have very young staff. We have some people that have been here. The most recent was in June, a June hire. We had somebody just get out of the academy in August. The guy before him was just hired in March of 24. So we have a very young staff, and I don't want to end up in the same situation as we're in now, where somebody made a decision, acquired a piece of equipment, and then life changes. That has not worked, obviously, so we don't want to repeat that step. So evaluating staff and ensuring that they have a sound fundamental policing set of skills under their belt before we would transfer that. But I also can echo some of the sentiments. I don't think that somebody that doesn't want to continue having a dog should indefinitely have the dog, but it's not a transition that you can do in the moment. And it does take time. It is a transition period, and that has what has been offered.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Emily. Sorry, Emily.
That's okay. That's why I run into the problem of forget. But I had one question what if Officer Yanef leaves, what happens to Loki then? What happens to Officer Loki?
Well, it doesn't change the fact that we still don't have officers that are ready to take that dog. Would he potentially be, we would have to work with a training facility and see if they would want to sell that dog.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one option.
And
because it doesn't change our staffing at this point. So
no, well, it would be, I mean, then you'd be down 2 officers. But my other question is, what about if Loki has been on the day shift before, and this goes back to my comment of when we made the decision to have a canine officer. My recollection, and I tried to confirm with former councilperson Hadley, is that when we were thinking about another dog, some of the things that we were most interested in, obviously it is a drug dog, but it is also a drug preventative dog, and a mental health dog, and that there were many things we were excited about having Loki engaging with the community more. And so I feel, I think there's 2 things going on. One is the shift for the canine officer, but then also for Officer Yanef. So my other question was, in all of these shift reallocations, if Officer Yanef hadn't been the police dog, he would have been able to put in for a shift change given his seniority, correct?
if he had no other specialty assignments, so somebody who's promoted, so a sergeant, for instance, their seniority is also removed because they are assigned to a shift based on their specialty skill set, their supervisory skill set.
And so were you proposing that? Well, no, I think that's all. I just I wanted to get that in about when we discussed the dog. I think Councilperson Chisel said it correctly, right? It wasn't an easy decision for us. And actually, I think there were a lot of ideas, but if I remember right, certainly Officer Hadley and I had discussed or not officer, I just said officer, Councilperson Hadley and I had discussed using the dog as a drug preventative as much as drugs at night. That's what I have right now.
Okay.
Could I add
real-
something else quick?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, obviously this has been a lot of information to go through and comb through. Based on some conversation points, I feel like what has been presented in the conversations that we had, I feel like things are going in the direction that they felt were right. And I feel like, good intentions were had. And I think there was communication at some point where maybe we divoted off from that. But at the same time, I feel like to the point you said, Chief, was that we were trying to utilize the resources we have the best to our ability as a city stance. And I think we also have to take that as a conversation point into assessment and what really we're looking for overall when it comes to the best point for not just our city, but the people that call this city home. I do want to make a point too, as someone that's rode along with Officer ENF many a times, I see his commitment to the city and what he puts forth in his effort, not only towards Loki, but just his general policing. And it's been an immense pleasure to see that as well. I just know at the end of the day, to the point that was made earlier, these aren't conversations that we have every day. And these aren't easy conversations. And as we work through those, I think we're trying to come to some common core ground here. So
if I may, I think it's important to understand in the context of collective bargaining, this is not uncommon. We have, several pages of rules. Every situation is different. You got to apply the facts to the collective bargaining agreement and the law. But you also have to understand that what you do today could be considered precedent in the future, because whenever it comes to a dispute about the interpretation of a collective bargaining agreement, one of the first things both sides says is, well, what's been the past practice? And so that could, depending upon what your decision is today, that this could be taken for future situations where somebody says, I don't want to know, I have reasons, I don't want to take the human context out of this. But everybody has personal situations and they may say, I need to not do this anymore. And you have to consider, it's harsh, right? But is that a management decision or is it an employee decision?
Well-
And if I can speak to that, I think there's kind of
Yeah.
already been a past precedence, because I think if there's somebody who's always had a special assignment and they didn't want to do it anymore, those new special assignments kind of found other places, regardless of what the special assignment was. If there was somebody that says, I don't want to be on the tactical team anymore for whatever various reasons, or monthly trainings, or, didn't want the call out, they stepped down and, sometimes they went without and then they filled those shoes. Or like Dare, McAniff did Dare. Now he doesn't do it anymore. That's one thing that he passed off because, having to go to nights and not doing Dare during the day, it was difficult for his schedule. So I think, to your point, that I think there has been a past practice of letting people walk away from these specialized trainings or these specialized assignments.
So if I could respond to that, I absolutely agree with that. I think that, however, again, there's a transition period. It's not like Dare at the end of school. Kids are out for the summer. Dare is not happening. This is a dog that needs daily care and a special set of skill sets for somebody who's handled this dog and who researched the program and who presented the program and has the dog. And I can't just say, well, okay, you don't want it. Here's somebody from the agency, take it, or I take it to my house and treat it like a house dog. It's a dog with a perishable set of skills that needs to be maintained until that transition can happen. And I can't say that would be February 1st it would happen, but what I can tell you is that Code Blue does not have a training scheduled until March to accommodate training a new handler to take on those responsibilities and duties that would be required for is what we now know an obligation that's quite large.
But he could do that on a different shift though, until that time happened.
Yeah.
And then does that set a precedent for the next time that somebody has a dog and they want to be on day shift? I'm not sure.
Well, if it
That would
comes
be,
with seniority, it's a seniority based issue.
well,
gue-
I think that we would agree to disagree on that. I don't think it's a
I
seniority.
guess I
based
have a
issue.
few comments I'd like to make too. In answer to Cody's question, I think the chief kind of addressed that, but the dog does have a dual purpose. And it was, we knew about that when it was first presented to us. I think when Dave Schmutzer was the chief, I applauded him for the way he went about it. He had Officer Yanov do all the research and background information on this, and he presented it to the council. And I think he did a tremendous job of doing that. And I want to tip my hat to Officer Yanov too. I think he's been a great officer and a good addition to our police force here. But again, like I said, I think that dog has a dual purpose when it's here, and that is to be drug enforcement as well as be a member of the community and get along. And that was known when it was presented to us at the same time. I guess I trust in the chief and the assistant chief. I had extensive discussions with them both over the last few days. And I think they went to great lengths trying to make this schedule work for everybody within the department. That means that somebody may have to not work the schedule maybe they want for a little while, but they tried to accommodate as many people as they possibly could with this new schedule. The assistant chief told me that he's a very visualized person, and they took everybody's name and they kept pushing it around on a board and things like that, trying to make it work for everybody. So I think they've gone to great lengths to do that, and I want to accommodate them for that. And I think they explained to me too that currently Officer Yanov works a 3 to 3 shift, and all they're asking him to do is go from a 5 to 5 shift, which is, I mean, for a lot of people, maybe 2 hours in a shift makes a big difference. But when you go into law enforcement, you know you're going to have some shifts that aren't maybe most people can understand or wouldn't adapt to very well. But you know that when you get into law enforcement, it's a different, unique skill set you have to do to be a law enforcement person. And I guess the last thing that I would say, I think in John's stuff, I think it sums it up very well when it says, exceptions may be made by the chief of police for officers assigned to special duties. And then it goes on to specifically state to which K-9 officer, investigator, or other specialized duty. So I don't think this falls into other specialized duty. I think Chief has explained very well that a K-9 handler, you have a dog that's involved with this. And its dog isn't, like she said, like a rifle that you can put away in a safe and bring it out later on, and it still does the same purpose. This dog has a life expectancy, and it needs that person to be there to deal with it and get the most utilization out of it. So I think I trust what Chief and the Assistant Chief have come up with, and I think we should back them on this.
I think one of the things to think about is that Officer Yanov also has a life, right? And also has other commitments within that life. And I feel like when you're the rookie, when you're the young person on the totem pole, yeah, you have a certain assumption of like, I'm going to get what I get. But after 6 years of commitment, after being one of our most, senior officers, I guess I feel like he's fulfilled his 3 years. And I'm also looking at the alternatives, right? Or the what ifs. If he had left, we would be in the same boat. And I think that had that 3 years not been in there, I can see a different conversation. But to me, he has fulfilled the 3 years of the minimum. And situations do change. I feel like we have looked at that there should be a way. Either we need to reevaluate how the dog shift works, or to say that, yes, we will need to find something for the dog temporarily at another point in time. But I agree with Brent in sort of the, why can't the dog work the day shift until there is another officer who can take over the dog?
Okay, I think there was somebody else that wanted to speak too.
Again, you're going to have to answer the question,
Mhm.
can an employee unilaterally change their duty assignment?
Wait, how is an employee unilaterally? He's resigning from the question is, can he resign from a duty assignment? I think you should be able to resign from a duty assignment. Yeah.
It-
That-
I disagree, Emily. That you resign from a job. And nobody wants that. I'm just saying, I'm just making it clear, like, if you're an employee and you're given a duty assignment, it's kind of a rare situation. Again, there's the human element here. Doesn't do anybody any good to be doing a job that they don't want to do. But the simple question is, can the employee make that decision unilaterally?
But I think Brent already described other ways in which employees resign from units and duties.
But that, I don't think that that has been determined to have been a unilateral decision. I think that, and again, I mean, I don't have the experience Brent does, and I don't have the experience Chief does, but I believe that that's usually mutually worked out, again, because for efficient operation, you don't want people in the long run doing a job that they don't want to do. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen maybe when the employee wants it to happen.
So you're saying essentially that if an officer decides to be a canine officer, they have, no matter how many years they have served, they just have to do it.
I'm saying there's a management right to assign work. That's in the collective bargaining agreement and it's in Iowa law.
Yeah, but there's a
I-
3 minimum of this in the I forget what document, right? That as long as you've served your 3-year minimum.
There's nothing that says you're automatically relieved after you serve your 3-year minimum.
I guess, Emily, I would go back to when the presentation was made to us here on council for getting a canine unit here. I think that was part of the research that Officer Yanov had done, was how long the life expectancy of the dog was as far as to be utilized on the force. I think that was part of the research and part of the information presented to us. So I think everybody at that time, whether it was an assumption or whether we just believed that was the case, that he would serve in that capacity with the dog until that dog was no longer needed for service or could no longer perform his duties. I mean, I think that was pretty much the presentation that was made to us.
I don't think that there was a presentation that said that he was going to commit to the lifetime of the dog. But I also would say that when he made that commitment, a 5-to-5 shift didn't exist, right? Things change. He didn't have 2 kids. Things change in people's lives. Things change in how we do our policing. Things change in the shift assignments and what they look like. And to say that an officer is then stuck doing something that isn't working for them and our only option is either they resign for their job or else they have to do something that is literally not going to work in their life, that seems not a great policy for retention in a police department.
I don't think changing 2 hours of your shift from 3 to 3 to 5 to 5 is a dramatic change in your lifestyle. I think the lifestyle is changed just because you're in law enforcement and the hours you're required to work, 24-hour shifts around the clock. That's what you've taken on.
Okay, I have somebody else that wants to come up to the podium. Behind you. Come up, state your name and.
Hi, my name is Rusty McEwen. I'm with AFSCME Council 61. I'm here speaking on behalf of Nick. First, I'd like to thank you guys for moving this forward. I do have a 3-hour drive back, so I really appreciate that. I'd like to preface my comments here of I'm new to AFSCME, about a month and a half or so, but I've been a union rep for 15 years, and I've never seen this is like the nicest grievance pursuit. I mean, even with step 2, I've never seen management and commend the grievant during that process, telling him what a hard worker he is, recommend, saying that he was a fit for the job, his skills, he's an exemplary employee, he's a leader in his peers and in the community. So giving him all these compliments during the grievance procedure, I don't normally get a chance to see that. It's usually management is pounding the desk, we're pounding the desk, whether it's a discipline or a contract violation. So that this is a little bit new for me, that this is going so well that that many of you up here and even management has supported the grievance so well. So I'm here tonight on behalf of Officer, well, I just messed that up. Hang on a sec. No. All right. Nope. Nope. Speaking on Officer Yaneff's concerning his grievance regarding department refusal to allow him to resign from the K-9 unit, exercises contractual right to bid a regular patrol shift based on his seniority. This grievance is not about refusing work or challenging management's right to run the department. It's about enforcing the balance between management rights and employee rights under the collective bargaining agreement, specifically the right to fair scheduling, seniority, and voluntary special assignments. Officer Yaneff was proudly served the city of Decorah as the department's K-9 handler for nearly 4 years. The department's own policy requires the minimum of 3-year commitment for the K-9 assignment. He has exceeded that commitment honorably, fulfilling every expectation placed on him and the K-9 unit. Recently, the police chief made a permanent change to the officer's work schedule, one that conflicts severely with his family responsibilities. Officer Yaneff requested to step down from the K-9 assignment and return to a regular patrol shift through the seniority bidding process as provided in Article 9, Section 7D6 of the labor agreement. The chief refused that request, stating that because the K-9 unit is important to the community, there is no one immediately ready to assume that role, and Officer Yaneff must remain in that assignment indefinitely, regardless of his family obligations or his completed commitment period. The union fully respects the Management Rights Clause, Article 3, Section 1, which gives the city the right to manage operations, direct the workforce, and assign work. However, those rights are not absolute. They must be exercised within the framework of the collective bargaining agreement. The union's position is that Article 9, 7D6 governs the specific issue. That section provides that in the event the employer makes any permanent change in work schedule, or in the event there is an opening or vacancy in an existing work schedule, the employer shall first offer the position to the employee having the most seniority, continuing in seniority order until position is filled. The article further provides the exceptions may be made to the chief of police assigned to special duties, to the K-9 officer, investigator, or specialized duty. That language means that the chief may assign special duties, but it does not say that an officer may be compelled to remain in such an assignment beyond the upon commitment period, nor that the chief can override the seniority process indefinitely to fill a permanent vacancy created by a schedule change. Officer Yaneff has completed his required 3 years, or minimum of 3 years, and has given nearly 4 years of service in that capacity. His request to step down and exercise his seniority rights is therefore reasonable, contractually sound, and consistent with departmental policy. The city and the department have an obligation to exercise management rights in good faith. It is not good faith to guilt or pressure an officer by invoking community expectations or implying that he knew what he was getting into. No officer should be required to choose between their family or their commitment to the community, especially when that officer has already exceeded his contractual and policy obligations. Moreover, the chief's comments that the community would be sad to see the K-9 go and that no one else is ready acknowledge that this is a staffing and training issue, not an employee misconduct issue. Management's failure to plan for succession or to recruit another handler cannot be used to justify in denying a contractual right. The K-9 program has been an asset to Decorah, and the officer has served it with pride, but forcing continuous service under involuntary conditions is not sustainable and not consistent with fair labor practices. and also creates its own bad precedent that if another employee, another officer steps up to a special assignment, that they will never be able to step down again. That would be a bad precedent as well. The city's own K-9 policy recognizes the 3-year minimum, not a lifetime assignment. That clause exists precisely so that officers can serve a reasonable term and so that the city can plan ahead to maintain continuity without exploiting one individual's service. The union respectfully requests that the city council, as the final step in this grievance process, find that the officer has fulfilled and exceeded his contractual and policy obligations under the K-9 assignment. The chief allow the resignation from the K-9 unit consistent with Article 9 seniority and schedule provisions, and the officer to be permitted to bid into regular shift consistent with the seniority at the next available opportunity, with management to assign and train a replacement K-9 handler in due course. This resolution honors both the city's operational needs and the officer's right under the labor agreement. It preserves fairness, maintains morale, and ensures continued trust between the officers and city leadership. In closing, Officer Yaniv has done everything asked of him above and beyond. He has served this community with distinction, maintained the K-9 program for nearly 4 years, and has simply requested to return to a regular shift so that he can be both a dedicated officer and a present father and husband. This is not an act of defiance, and it is a reasonable request for fairness and compassion and respect for the commitments on both sides of the table. We ask that this council uphold this grievance and direct the department to allow Officer Yaniv to exercise his seniority rights and return to his standard patrol schedule. Thank you for your time and your consideration. Respectfully, Rusty McEwen.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna, in fact, I'm
if-
coming back. I'm
Okay.
coming back to you, but if you have a,
Well, I might. Actually, I wanted the chief to speak to something, but then I wanted Rusty, you might want to respond to it though. Just to make sure that the council is addressing this specific grievance. You have the request to resign as K-9 officer. And there's the timing of that. And then there's the timing of the bids for the new shift. And I'm not sure if the timing of the bids for the new shift that was posted, if that's an issue or not. And I guess, Chief, I'd like you to speak to that because I think there was a timing issue.
Yes, shift bids were due by, I believe it was August 11th, for us to take into consideration, before we came up with the final schedule to push out.
And just for reference, I'm looking, the September 3rd was the resignation as K-9 officer, right?
If that's when he provided that to city manager.
Okay, so, yeah, so that I want to try to get some consensus here. Is the only issue whether or not at this time Officer Yaniv can resign as K-9 officer?
Correct. That's what the grievance is. Yes.
Okay, and Rusty, do you agree with that?
So let me ask you, so since he is doing this after, just to clarify what you're saying, he was requesting this after this last shift or schedule change was out.
Well, that's, yes, correct.
Okay.
So
So, yeah,
I just want to make sure we're,
And I would say that whenever the next schedule is out, he would be able to bid for that next schedule.
okay. So the issue before the council is may he resign as K-9 officer, which if he can, opens him up for the next time the shifts are open for bidding. Is that right?
Yeah, I would understand that, correct. Right, and I would defer, yeah. Is that right?
okay, I'm coming back to John. I guess I need some guidance. We've had a lot of discussion, a lot of comments. I appreciate what people have to say. I just need guidance as far as,
Well, I think it goes back to the grievance is may he resign as
Okay.
canine officer.
so that would be the only thing that they would be doing any kind of vote on. Is that correct?
Right, and then he'd still be at whatever assigned shift he is right now until the next open schedule comes around.
Okay.
Can I ask
So
a
if I can interrupt really quick, you have my grievance right there. I think it says the right to resign or the grievance is something along the lines of resigning from K-9 and the right to bid my shift based on seniority. So that's the grievance. And when we were asked for shift bids, the regular shift schedule that is set up within Decorah Police Department is we have 2-day shift, 2 evening shift, 2 night shift. And that has kind of changed a little bit over the years based on our staffing. When I had bid a shift, I don't know if the shift bid is in there, but I had bid for day shift and then evening shift as my first 2 choices, assuming third choice would be a night shift. There was no word at all of a 5 to 5 shift. There was no word at all of Assistant Chief Herman going to a Monday through Friday. So in essence there, I'm not sure that anyone on the department knew what shift they could bid because we were going off of past precedents of this is the way the Decorah Police Department has been structured for however long. And so my understanding and what I'm grieving is that when I bid my shift, I bid a day shift and an evening shift as a secondary. And learning that a new shift was made for me as the K-9, 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. That is where, if that is the K-9 shift, the 5 p.m. to 5 a.m., and did resign from that shift, then that would put me back at a regular officer standing, in which my shift bid from that August 11th, if that's when it was taken, my shift bid should be taken into account for this upcoming schedule. And I understand that that if my resignation were to be accepted, that would mean that somebody would be moved from a shift as I would be taking a day shift based on seniority. And so the grievance is not only accept my resignation of K-9, and then whenever we have another opening, then allow me to bid shift. It's going off of that last shift bid that we had on August 11th.
So, and I'm
Go
just
ahead.
trying to make sure we don't walk into another problem, because if you've had other people bid based upon timing, we could end up with another grievance. So I just want to make sure we're not compounding any issues when the council makes a decision. And Chief, I'm sorry, could I just, and bear
That's
with me,
okay.
I think
No, that's okay.
timing is important
Mhm,
for the council on the two separate issues.
mhm.
So Chief, when were I think you just need to explain how the shift bidding works and when it was announced and when bids were due.
I would have to pull up the emails to give you exact dates. Shift bids were, I believe, due on August 11th. It was also put out, hey, send me your shift bids. We're working on a schedule. Again, knowing that we don't have to give 90 days notice to a shift change, but to plan for holidays and to accommodate family as best you can, we gave a significant amount of notice. So the shift bids were due August 11th, I believe it was. And then the shift assignments were actually put out August 20th. And then the assistant chief went into the schedule anywhere software and projected the schedule out so you could actually have a visual and look at it and see, again, the shifts aren't scheduled to start until November 1st. So So it's a shift, again, nobody's shift has actually changed because the shift assignments go into effect November 1.
Okay.
And did that, is it true that 5 to 5 did not exist when the shift bid was happening? And were there other shifts that were created and changed? Like they were bidding on what they thought was the schedule that has been instead of some new schedule that they didn't know?
Well, no, that schedule was made because the normal schedule that we had, I had emails that said that didn't work. He didn't want, though he can say he put in for days and then the 3 to 3 shift, I had the email that 3 to 3 shift didn't work because it bounces, which is the nature of that shift. That happens on both sides. So short of putting multiple cars on 3 to 3, that shift is going to bounce to cover shifts. So, okay, well, how can I create a shift that he can have access to both sides? Because he wanted a specific supervisor versus a different one. So, okay, how can I give him access to both? How can I get both sides to have access to the canine? How can I have him on a shift that doesn't bounce and fluctuate, that is harder on his sleep schedule and then in essence his family life? So with the 5 to 5, that would be static. It's not going to shift. Both sides have access to the dog. It allows coverage for our night shift officer if somebody has a short shift, because we're not straight 12s. We're 6 12s and 1 8. So if an officer on night shift, one has an 8-hour shift, the other night officer might be alone for 4 hours. So going that 5 to 5 would allow some extended coverage then to fill that gap. So it was really trying to accommodate his requests that shift was developed rather than the 3 to 3 because he didn't want that shift, if that makes sense. So was it created? Yes. So nobody would know to put in for a 5 to 5 shift per se. But the 3 to 3 that was his second choice also didn't work for him. And he specified in an email why that was. So tried to accommodate, I guess, his wants and creating just that later timeline and a static position. That's why it was created.
Does Officer Yannick want to respond to that? I don't know in terms of what we heard.
I'm going to go back to John.
Okay. Well, and this is where, again, trying to decide what the limits of what you can address right now. The
You're
grievance.
talking about the council limit.
The council.
Yeah.
Yeah, the council limits. And I think I have to correct myself about a statement earlier, timing. So it's clear he can grieve the, he's grieving the assignment as K-9 officer. The shift, whether he can, if he can resign as K-9 officer, then immediately as of November 1st, take the next shift. I have to refer to the collective bargaining agreement and the grievance procedure. And it says, step 1, the grievance shall be discussed informally between the employee involved and the employee's immediate supervisor within 14 calendar days after the occurrence of the event giving rise to the grievance or the date the grievant first became aware, or should have become aware of the, basically the issue. And his grievance is that on September 3rd, he tried to resign as K-9 officer. His grievance then is not filed though until September 28th. So there's a timing issue there because that's beyond 14 days from the date that the bids were announced, August 20th. And so again, don't want to walk into another, when you have other officers that have already timely bid, and he's outside the window on that or to grieve it, I think there's a limitation on addressing that issue. But Rusty,
I would say, yeah, on the 14 days, but as actually this came up in a different grievance that I've been handling. And forgive me, I don't know all the Iowa codes yet and DAS codes, but in one of those, in that particular grievance, she didn't count the holidays and the holiday and 2 weekends. So she was out of the 14-day window as well. So, but the city responded in step 1 She appealed it at step 2, and they responded again in step 2, moving to a step 3. So by the city responding, then you have waived the guidelines as well.
Yeah.
So-
Well, the denial was of the shift or of the assignment as
But,
canine.
but you're talking about timelines, I
Yeah.
would say, since there's been a response at step 1 and step 2 in the process, that kind of null and voids that original timeline,
Well,
since there was a response.
yeah, but well, I guess that this is going to be for the council to decide because the grievance is for the resignation of, as canine handler. So you know,
So is that the only thing right now is the grievance of being not assigned as a canine handler?
it seems to me, when you look at the timing of it, that it would be. Now, of course, he could resign, he could open himself up for the next time around. But I think you have an issue here with the timing as far as the November 1st start date for that new shift. And I'll just point out that the denial is just first step. It just says denied, and I'd have to look at the chief's letter as far as the reason, what was specifically denied in that, but it was focused on canine handler.
How do we get it clear for the council as far as what they should be?
Well, I mean, I think you're going to end up possibly with a further grievance going the next step, because I think there's going to be probably a disagreement about that.
And we're under a time limit as far as what when we make here too.
You
correct?
are, but it's not that detrimental, because if you don't take, well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? What you're thinking, what the individual council members are thinking, because if you don't take action, it's automatically denied. So if you want to take other action, if you don't take action within 10 days, and it's got to be a written decision, which I think in this case could be the mayor signing the grievance form with whatever decision the council votes on, then if you don't do that, it's denied.
Okay, so how many days do we have left?
Let's see, this was filed a week ago.
So I think, so we could make a motion. So if I made a motion and I said that, I'm just unclear. I would make a motion and I believe that Officer Yanov has the right to request a termination of his canine responsibility or to resign from the canine. How the shift works, I think, has to be considered a little bit, because my concern is that he wasn't allowed. I don't know what to do with the shift thing. So can you give some guidance on that? Or do I just make a motion to say he has the right to resign from a canine shift?
Emily, I think it would help the council greatly if we could just continue if we could just consider the question of whether he has the right to resign from this special assignment. I think that we should, if we're going to consider a motion, I think that would be the best, most clarifying thing for us to consider is simply, your motion could simply accept the grievance and direct staff to accept Officer Yanov's resignation of his canine responsibilities. That would be clean and maybe involve less hypotheticals. Is that?
I think that's the first step. I think because
okay,
if that failed, it's kind of over with. But if it passes, then you can go on to the next step.
Okay, then I will make that motion. I think that Officer Yanov has the right to resign from canine responsibilities after 3 years. I mean, since he has served his 3 years.
I'll second.
Who, Brent? Okay. Motion made by Neil, seconded by Parker. Any further discussion?
Yes, I have a question for Chief or Assistant Chief. How long are these schedules put out for? Are they 3 months, 6 months, a year?
There's no definite timeline on that. Staffing is always.
Can you step back up again, please? That's okay.
No, I'm.
As long as they're
Getting your
into
steps up
mics
today.
tonight.
It's not a definitive timeline. Like I said, this schedule hasn't gone into effect it doesn't go into effect till November 1. So if a person did an annual reassessment, an annual shift bid, which a lot of agencies do, at this point, since I've been here, staffing has changed that. So we have not had the opportunity to say every year we'll do this and make this change. So a definitive date has not been set.
For the extent, okay,
Right.
because that was my question. You know, we can't get a new trainer working with the dog until March, which is 6 months, 5.5 months out, correct?
Correct.
And then how long does that training take? Is that,
That would be up to Trace Erickson up there at
Okay.
Code Blue K9. Yeah, he would have to determine that. Potentially a couple weeks, potentially longer, depending on how well the dog and the new handler, if one was determined to be a fit, took them to train together, I guess. So.
Okay, any further?
I've got a question.
Sure.
Thanks. Is it staff's perspective? I mean, this is for you too, Chief, but I'm kind of curious about Travis and John's perspective as well. Do you all think that that sort of, let's say that the supervisor of the police department wanted, you know, to really give someone a bad time and assign them to a night shift in perpetuity, and they gave them a special assignment so that they could use this language that we've been considering to ensure that that was the case. I mean, I'm not saying that that's how this is being used at all. I'm wondering, is there, I keep coming back to how this seems like such a significant change in the role, like something that in other sort of work environments you might consider constructive dismissal. Like, hey, you work night shifts now and there's no recourse. That's sort of what it seems like, you know, we're saying as a city to Officer Yaniv, and I guess can if he can't resign his canine responsibilities, is our perspective that would just be too bad? That as long as you're the department's canine handler and we want that person on the night shift, you have no seniority when it comes to bidding for shifts in perpetuity.
Again, I think that is a management decision. I'm not weighing in whether it's a good or bad decision. I'm just saying there are management rights, and what the council has to decide is, does Article 9, Section 7, D6, does that curtail management rights in any way as far as that assignment? But Steve, to your other kind of the first point, you said under the law, but also under the collective bargaining agreement, the employer shall not discriminate against any member of the union or show favoritism to any non-union employee in the settlement of a grievance or job assignments or work rules. So you can't do it for an improper purpose. I mean, I think that's probably somewhat of a fair statement. I mean, in a true at will, I don't know that would carry weight, but this is not a true at will situation.
Are there things in these agreements that staff wish were more clearly articulated than they were? Or are there notes that you have for the next time these things are being written?
I mean, I get, from my perspective, this is what you hire management to do. I mean, I don't know, I think that there can be a problem in over-regulating because you can end up with unintended consequences of narrowing down what management does. And so, you know, I'm not saying whether it's the right decision or a wrong decision. My opinion is you have the guidelines, you have the rules, but then you tell your department heads, go forth and manage.
I would say that we also have a responsibility to employees, and there is also the process of a grievance with the union, and we're in part of that process, right? I mean, if we say, well, we have no role to play and management do your thing, and I see the purpose of both, right? We want to support management in their ability to make these types of decisions, but we also are in some ways an arbiter of then what does that mean for the union contract in relationship to the responsibility that we have to the employee. And I feel like the union representative made a good point in terms of the rights of the employee, not just the rights of management. Like we have to be thinking of both of those things, not just one end. and to me, this is a case where I can understand management's perspective 100%. But I also can see how this is an unfair treatment of an employee and an unrealistic expectation that we are saying that essentially you have, as I think Steve Zinnegren is saying, wow, right? You are essentially, if we give you this task, then we get to control you completely and your seniority goes out the window. That does not seem fair or just.
Yeah, it sounds very city manager-esque.
Okay.
Well, I guess-
So, if I may, actually along those lines, I was trying to stay quiet because obviously I'm part of the management decision on this. But one thing I do want to point out is there are other considerations as far as the operations of this city goes. So, one of the things I want to point out is, as John said, you hire staff to manage as well. This is very similar to any other request that I might have for another not even officer or other member of union covered staff, excuse me, that comes in and says, Travis, I no longer want to do this as part of my job. And if I tell them no, and they come in front of this council, as John pointed out, we're going to have what was previous practice. Similarly, you want to talk about being a good father, good parent, good spouse? Let me tell you about my week last week. I had 6 meetings scheduled across all 4 nights, Monday through Thursday, that I struggle so greatly with that what I'm getting at is I don't have the ability to come to council and say, you know what, I'm done with zoning administrator. It's a directive that you guys have given me to do that I did agree to a while ago. Do I have the ability to, at the end of this, say, I'm done, find somebody else for P and Z? That's what we're facing. I give you no heads up. I give you agreements a letter that says I'm done. What keeps getting missed is it was pointed out in my response. It says, we will reevaluate this no sooner than February 1st. So this whole that staff won't consider it is bogus.
So that's where I'm sitting right now. I would like to see both parties, management and Officer Yanov and the other officers, try and work something out to where we have a succession plan for a new officer to take this over. Right now, I'm kind of sitting on the side of the management here because of the timing, like John said, and all of this. And this is a lot different than, I know Brent referenced earlier, being on the special task force. I think that's over and above, isn't it? That more of a voluntary thing that you do? It's not assigned by the chief? How does that work, Brent?
Yeah, and really too, I mean, just me, this is my personal historical reference is, even the K-9 was a voluntary thing.
Right, it was voluntary and brought in, but now it's an integral part of the everyday operations there. We need to develop a succession plan so we don't have these issues in the future is where I'm getting at. And that's where I would like to see management and staff, our officers, sit down and create that so that we don't have this if we have another officer step in, where we have some kind of succession planning going on. And if that makes sense, I don't know, but.
And I guess I don't see is Officer Yanov's role as the canine handler isn't the I guess I'm struggling to see, Travis, and I'm feeling your pain and I'm feeling terrible, but to me there is a distinction between essentially assigning it was a voluntary position that had a 3-year minimum, and it isn't the necessary essential role of a police officer in the same way that there is an essential role of a city manager to be a part of P&Z. So to me, those are 2 separate things. We're asking him to do a special assignment as a police officer, not we're hiring a canine handler. Like, we didn't hire him as a canine handler.
When I
And
was
think,
hired, there was a different zoning administrator. That's why I was trying to equate that it was something I was asked to do, that I was willing to, because it's part of the job.
but the question is, so you could come to us and say, I don't want to do zoning administration again, and then we would be faced with the same situation, right? I mean, you could definitely do that to council. And we would be faced with, all right, well, do we want to lose a city manager or find a zoning administrator? I don't know. I mean,
I've got.
Rusty.
I mean-
First name?
Rusty.
Travis,
Rusty's-
I do know the answer.
Rusty's at the microphone.
So I would just like to add, section or Article 9, Section 7, 6 or whatever again. This part's been a little bit left out of some of the comments from myself and even on your side. So I'm just going to read, it says, in the event that the employer makes any permanent change in work schedule, or in the event that there is an opening or vacancy in an existing work schedule, said employer shall first offer the position to employee having the most seniority. In the event said employee elects not to take said change in work schedule. So the employee actually does have a choice whether to take that schedule per the collective bargaining agreement. You said earlier that it was just unilaterally taken by the employee and he doesn't have that right. Well, he does have the right to not take a schedule. And then it would go down to the lower senior person. So again, we talked about retention. We talked about how, training other employees. He's one of the most senior officers you have. He took on the responsibility. He went at it guns blazing of, hey, I'm going to research this. I'm going to do this. He's fulfilled his duty as a K-9 officer. Now, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, things have changed in his life. The schedule has changed. It doesn't work for him. And he has the opportunity to step down. And that's all he's asking. He wants to remain here and serve the community of Decorah, but by telling him, no, you cannot do this, or saying, oh, well, in 6 months, we will reassess, he's just going to end up leaving. And then you're going to be down a K-9 and an officer.
I think throughout the discussion,
Thank you.
we've heard that piece several different times from different people. We have a motion on the table to allow him to resign from the K-9 duties.
Can I just ask one more question, please?
Sure.
I'm sorry. Forgive my ignorance, Chief. What are the obligations of Loki, the dog? Is there is there an early out for that, or is there like an early retirement option for the K-9 itself? I'm just asking, just what the obligations are. What kind of, is there a contractual agreement with a training facility?
No, generally canines work until they can't anymore physically. They become sick. They age out basically, unless there's an injury that would occur, that would prohibit them from going out and working. And then the handler has the opportunity to maintain or keep the dog as their family dog, basically, once it's retired out, if you will.
Mhm.
So that I've seen canines go for 3 years and then get a sickness and be out of the game. And I've seen others work for 9 or 10 years. So
Yeah. Would we be out drastically if there was like a voluntary retirement for Loki?
well, I guess that would be a decision that would have to come from above me because it's an expenditure.
Mhm.
And then the training that went into that, and then the expectations of the community that have created this pot of money of donations basically for the animals. So that would,
Yeah, I want to reiterate the strength of support for this program from the community.
Yep.
That has been ongoing.
Okay.
Not only from the money we put in, but also the additional money that's given to the K-9 program by all the citizens. So it's, and they, you know, it's a real advantage to having that in our police department,
True.
if that helps.
Can I ask one more clarifying question? Just kind of piggyback off of what Cody said. So essentially, hypothetically, if we do move forward with this, I guess what are the steps next after, say we acknowledge this resignation of that position? What would happen to Loki? And I apologize if I had missed that point earlier.
And
Yeah.
I think,
in all likelihood, we would reach out to the canine that we purchased Loki from. He still has probably half of his service life remaining. We would look to sell him, recover some of the costs associated with the program.
I think,
And would that be immediate, or is that a timeline that?
Alternatively, we look at housing him for until at least March.
Okay.
I do have a question. Let's say that we're not consistently wanting to get rid of, I mean, we want him not to do it. We don't want to get rid of the dog. If they do vote this down, then would they be able to consider this, like if they go back and they work with it? Or is there the time frame that we have to do this within a certain time frame?
The item in front of you right
That's
now has
correct.
a time frame,
Right.
10 days from last Monday.
Okay, so like, let's say they voted down, he cannot do that.
Then it's step 3 is complete. And if they wish to pursue, they'd move on to step 4.
Okay. So they would move on to another step. What's that?
Correct.
What would that step be?
Arbitration, right?
Right, arbitration.
Okay.
Yep.
I've got you.
And that's the end of it.
Okay.
Before we take the vote, I want to say something because it's important to me. This is a really difficult vote in general because I feel like
This is difficult.
I don't want Travis and the chief to feel unsupported. I also recognize that there is a process that employees have that is, manager, upper management, council. In the same way that I think it's fair to say, Travis, that I value you so much that if you were to come to council and say, I need to think out something outside of zoning administration, I would look at it. So I do think that what you're asking of us is to be consistent. And I want to say that I would be consistent, that I do think that we owe it to our loyal employees who are doing a tremendous job to make their job fit within their life. And if we can do it, we should do it. And I guess that's why I would be taking this vote, not because I don't have faith in the chief and I don't have faith in you. I just think that as a council person, I have such loyalty to our staff in general that I want their work to fit in their life. And to me, Officer Yadov can be a phenomenal police officer, and he is a phenomenal police officer, and we should be able to separate that from from Loki, Officer Loki, as a partner. So I want to be very clear when this vote happens that people understand that.
I think that,
Are you saying then that you don't think the 3 people involved in the first 2 steps didn't take that into consideration as well?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just saying that there is a process, and this is the process, and I understand interpretation of law is different, right? I mean, that's what's weird about law and code, and John can say this too, that you can interpret things very differently. And I'm interpreting, I guess maybe I am leaning heavily on the union contract to make my decision, and I'm leaning heavily on a worker's rights. And I don't see this as Officer Yanov saying, I'm unilaterally telling you I want this shift. He's saying I have seniority, which he does, and that we have to honor that seniority into the work that he's doing.
How could the union contract be any more specific when it says exceptions may be made by the chief of police or officers assigned to special duties, to wit, K-9 officer, investigator, or other special? It couldn't be any more specific than that.
Well, because it has a 3-year minimum, and I think he served it.
That's that.
okay.
in there.
Okay, once again, we've we've kind of gone around full circle on all of this.
If I may, Mayor, I just want to provide a clarifying comment because I think my comments were being misunderstood. I meant that if that request is made of council on the removal, that I don't want to be planning and zoning administrator anymore, that is your job as my manager to determine whether that's appropriate or not. Like, I don't get to unilaterally just go to council and say, I'm done with this, you need to figure it out. That is not a unilateral choice.
Okay,
That's what I meant by
Okay.
that.
I know, what we're doing is we're kind of circling the circle
Mhm.
as we go along. And what I've got in front of me is the motion that states that he can resign as K-9 officer. Or what is the motion? Can you read the motion again, please?
The motion is that he has the right to resign as the K-9 officer since he has served his 3 years.
Okay. I'm going to call for a vote. Roll call.
Neil,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Zittergruen,
No.
Chisel,
No.
Whittle,
Yes.
Misselinich,
No.
Olson.
No.
Motion failed. So the motion is, that has failed, it states that he cannot resign as K-9 officer, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you for coming. Safe drives.
Thank you for considering.
okay,
But again, I would like to see a succession plan put in place so that if
I
somebody
would
is in
also.
March, wants to take it over, then Nick can apply for the next shift change.
Okay.
I think that's only fair.
I agree wholeheartedly on that. Okay, so then we go on to discussion 13. Discussion and possible action on Decorah Fire Station and municipal building project options.
Okay. Everybody ready to jump into this one now?
Is it possible to change the agenda again? I see we have people out here for another agenda item that probably can go pretty quick.
That'd be up to John.
I apologize for not having seen them before.
Oh, I had never met. I'm
I-
sorry.
Okay,
I-
what is the question?
Well, I was wondering if we could change the agenda, and I see we have a couple people out here for an additional item on the agenda that
For the
probably could be,
CJ Lansing.
right, it could
Yeah.
probably be addressed pretty quickly, so they don't have to sit here.
I defer, Mayor, it's your call on that.
Okay, which,
whether-
which item are we talking about?
The CJ Lansing.
Okay.
Can I make I'm gonna have to go. So can I will email my comments about the fire station. Or are we gonna take a vote on that?
So there are two things so it says potential possible action. One was if there was a preference that the council as a whole wanted to identify as a priority of which one of the three options that they want to prioritize, or if you want to throw one completely out. In addition to that, I know it was brought up about a possible action item to basically the council issue a public statement that we support this vote or we don't support this vote. If the council wanted to do a resolution to identify the council's stance on that, you could also take that action under this item as well.
Okay, we have people in here that have waited a long time for an item that could go rather quickly. Correct?
So-
I would prefer to move to item number 11. Consider site plan for CJ Lansing Motors. Can you give the background on that, please?
Can we get a quick vote on this to address this item first?
Okay. I need a motion from council
Um,
to address item number 11.
I'll make a motion to move item number 11 up to the
Second
present
it.
time.
Second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Chisel. Roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Chisel, Whittle.
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Ms. Lynch.
Aye.
Sittergren.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, can you give the background for the Lansing?
Yes, so, gotta go to the right number here. All right, so the city has received an application from CJ Lansing Motors, Inc. for the construction of an auto repair shop at 1009 Payne Street. City Code Section 17.36.020 requires that the proposed development submit a site plan for review by Planning and Zoning Commission and a recommendation made to the city council. City engineers provide the review, full letters and drop access file 11B. One, it's a notation, signage, business signage, should be applied for to the zoning administrator, which is still me. Loading and parking spaces, site meets parking minimums. However, the markings aren't shown on the site plan. And additionally, one accessible parking stall is required. Off-street parking does not appear to meet setbacks requirements, so you might have to move it back a little bit from those edges. And additionally, the site plan shows as gravel. Was that truly your intentions to keep it as gravel?
At first it was.
Okay.
We intended on blacktop.
Okay, so code does require must be flexible or rigid pavement. So those are the loading and parking spaces, contingencies. Garbage and trash, site plan doesn't show the location, but you should identify that on the site. And owner is necessary for all permits and certifications. That's just kind of a catch-all. Staff and planning and zoning recommends site plan be approved contingent on meeting all off-street parking requirements or receiving variance from Board of Adjustment.
Motion to approve the site plan with contingent on meeting all off-street parking requirements or receiving variance for the Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Olson,
Aye.
Ms. Lynch,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
and Zittergren.
Aye.
I'll say aye too.
Sorry, thank you. I was trying to follow the line.
Thanks for the investment in the community.
Yeah, thanks for being patient too, guys. Appreciate it. Sorry we didn't get to you. Yep.
Thanks, Eric.
See you guys.
All right. Now we can go on to number 13, correct?
Yeah, I gotta hop off. So can I just say what I want to say about the fire station?
Go for it. I'm gonna take this opportunity to duck out for a second.
There, you can go for it.
I am in support of the purchase of the BMO building and for us to work with other entities in terms of leasing that out. And then in terms of the county trying to think about a public safety space and remodeling the fire department or rebuilding new, whichever is cheaper at the current site. More importantly than anything, I think we should pass a resolution tonight that says we support a yes vote. So otherwise I gotta hop off.
Thank you very much for coming on. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. We will, as soon as somebody returns. You know, I always said that when it got really bad, and I don't have many times, I always said that if it got really harried, I would do this. No, and then I can sit and just go,
Looks like we're on a TV timeout. Maybe we should recess for 5 minutes.
well, no, I understand that. I think that, yeah, I am doing a filler. But the thing is when we have important items to discuss, we have to take the time when we're here to discuss them. And we have had, and we'll have a lot of very important things that are coming up. So there are going to be times when maybe in the middle of the meeting, we just have to take a couple minutes. So thank you for your patience.
What'd I miss? No, I'm just kidding.
I was just doing a filler, so.
Perfect.
Okay, Now we're going to the discussion and possible action on the Decorah Fire Station and Municipal Building project options. So I will go to you, Travis.
Okay, so again, staff's continuing to work with ISG on cost estimating of three primary options for the fire station municipal building bond referendum. Each one of the three includes new construction of a fire station, but the first, well, these are not in any particular order, but one is to include all existing operations in a new construction on site. Another option is fire station, again, new construction with a partial demolition and renovation of the remaining municipal building. And then the other option is new construction fire station with acquisition and renovation of the BMO building at 120 West Water Street. This discussion is in possible actions meant to allow council the opportunity to potentially rank the orders of preference or rule out one or more of the options in advance of the bond referendum on November 4th. This is some of the feedback that we've been getting, whether it's been some of the meetings that I've hosted or been invited to attend to speak on behalf of this. Those cost estimates are included in Dropbox as file 13. There are multiple pages to that file. But within it, the multiple pages listed are, bless you. So in your packets on page 97 is all new construction. Excuse me. Page 98 is new construction of fire station with renovating, again, the remainder of City Hall with partial demolition. Page 99 is renovation of just the main floor of BMO. And that does assume full demolition of this building. The page 100 is renovation of main and lower level of BMO, again, assuming full demolition of this site. And then the last page, 101, that is renovation of all floors associated with BMO. So, first project, new construction fire station, administration park rec, all one new construction project on site, demolition of this existing building. Demolition is estimated for this portion of the building at nearly $250,000. The reason I point that out is the county has publicly discussed, they've been looking at space for emergency management. And there are parts of this building of which with, if you look at the renovation numbers on the next page on page 98, we're looking at about $250 a square foot to renovate the remainder of the municipal building. So in any one of these solutions, and I'm using solutions, any one of these options, the potential to eliminate demolition is there if we potentially partner with the county, if they would consider some kind of partnership that they can utilize some of the space down here as well, if they want to contribute to remodel costs. Don't know what that partnership looks like, but throwing it out there, they have been talking about emergency management and getting additional space for that. Might be something worth considering. Again, so sorry, back on page 97, I called out the demolition costs, but the total estimated costs, which I should point out, I very much hope so, are on the conservative high end. You can see that second to the last column on the right is OH&P. That stands for overhead and profit. So that's what each subcontractor is going to bid into their base bid on the actual construction costs so estimated there. So that would be the subcontractor OH&P. And then when you get down after the subtotal, your general conditions, that's your mobilization, just kind of your catch-all of 10%. And then it does have a fairly conservative contingency at 15%. So once you look at all those additional tack-ons, you got insurance and bonds and the fee of 4%. That's essentially what your construction manager is looking to make on their portion for the construction manager at risk model for a new construction. So that total all-in costs associated with new construction, with everything on site, part of a new construction project, that's 18.44 million or $658.03 per square foot of the total project, usable space. Moving through the tabs quickly. Next one, again, page 98, renovation of City Hall, the remaining space. So this has demolition estimated at about $89,000. That would be the apparatus bay and everything to the west. That structurally needs to go. So that would come off. And then everything east of there could potentially be renovated to accommodate administration, park rec. And that is roughly 9,622 square feet. If you remember when we did the site programming for administration, park rec, that came to 9,311. So a very good potential match there. At $250 a square foot for those renovation costs. Again, full breakdown numbers there, but the total all costs, including the soft costs, $17,611 or $579.59 a square foot usable space. Yeah, Randy.
Okay, so on that one, basically just taking the garage out, their offices, bedroom, lounge, TV room, kitchen, that's all gonna become office space? Potentially in this
Potentially in
scenario.
this option, correct.
Okay, then your current office spaces, is that something that we could work out with emergency management?
Potentially, that would reduce from the 9,622.
Okay,
That
so you're,
potentially-
that's all included in, okay, all right.
Correct.
That's what I
Yep.
just wanted to clarify.
Yep. So it's possible. That's, we've got what we estimate on the site programming, roughly 300 feet, but it's possible. Let's see. Again, 17,600,000 roughly, or $580 per square foot usable space in this potential option. The next page, 99, that's again, new fire department, but renovate just the main floor of BMO. So if you have not been in that building, it is expansive. There's a lot of space there, roughly 25,000 square feet. One floor of that is 9,904 square feet. So that is a bit, bit more space than that 9,300 that was estimated part of that site programming, but still certainly can be achieved on one level of BMO building. That does again also have full demolition of this existing building.
Hey, can you tell me the total square footage of that again, please?
Yeah, let me grab it. Its total square footage is going to be so it's nearly 20,000, or excuse me, it's 19,362 of what I would classify as usable square feet. So office space setting, that sort. And then there's an additional 7,700 square feet that is storage and mechanical space.
Okay, thank you.
So roughly about 27,000 square feet total. Okay, so back to 99, page 99, that's renovation of main floor of BMO. Again, 9,900 square feet of floor space renovated, but does include an improvement to all 22,370 square feet associated with the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system. So that's a full replacement of that. Does include 3-stop elevator at $300,000 cost. That's largely because the current elevator in there is not ADA compliant. You cannot fit a gurney in there, a cot. So would include a larger shaft as part of the project. And then also a 2-stop wheelchair lift, new installation on the north alley side, on the north side of the building. Because I don't know if, in my mind, I always just thought there was one there because there's that little alcove by the steps. That alcove actually goes into an adjacent stairwell to go up through all the floors. So you'd have to get a chair lift. Technically don't have to, but in all likelihood, considering we'd be using North Alley as most of that parking, Probably should have a chairlift on that side.
It would go up to the floor where the walkthrough is.
It would be
Correct.
like at the hotel.
Right.
Yep. And then you would be able to access the elevator for all the floors off of that one.
And this does not include any acquisition costs.
It does not, correct. So this includes no acquisition. These total costs are estimated at 19,375,000 roughly, or $504 per square foot. It does not include any acquisition, and I would strongly, if this is the path council chooses to prioritize, I would not suggest any cash consideration on top of the land swap. I see the potential in sweetening the deal essentially for BMO, where we do close and say, but we will continue to lease the property to you for $1 plus they have to pay the taxes for 2 years. That'll give them time to do whatever they want to the current drive-through location while still operating a branch fully functional. And then they can move into their new building on the drive-through. That's how I see that potentially playing out, but I would not advocate for any cash sale necessarily on top of the land swap. Moving quickly through, so that next one is page 100. This is renovation of the main and lower level of BMO, because I know one of the things discussed by council, as well as some of the other like SMID and other partners of ours, is that arcade level, and especially the reestablishment of a public restroom space. So if we were to include renovation of the arcade level as part of a project there, that now ups it to 14,633 square feet, which is well above what our site needs are, our site programming needs were. But it would, again, I would envision established public restrooms on that space and whatever else. Yeah, there's potential rental, and I do want to get into after I get through the all BMO one, then I'll get into the potential rental. So the main and lower, that now is 19,884,000 or $461 per square foot. Now the all BMO tab, which is page 101 in the packet, this includes renovation of all 19,362 square feet of office space. Again, 7,737 square feet of storage and mechanical, the MEP system throughout, the roof, and all the BMO options include full replacement of the roof on day one as well. This one has a total project cost. Again, this is there's over 19,000 square feet of office space and an additional nearly 8,000 in storage and mechanical space. This is 21 million, and that's $439.42 per square foot. So since the public discussion that BMO was an option back on the table, that their staff was talking with us, I know that there have been some emails sent to staff as well as elected officials on the potential for this property. But I've also actually held 2 meetings with an interested business that is willing and wants to enter into a potential lease agreement with the city should the city acquire this building where they would occupy an entire floor. There's potential that it might even be 2 floors. So I only point this out because obviously we're having discussions on what level of renovation we would want to pursue. Obviously, we're talking about which option to pursue to begin with, but that is a consideration that I think should be valuable to council, knowing that there is public interest in potentially renting the additional space there.
Would they want to renovate that themselves, or would that be contingent on the city renovating it?
So that's how, bit cart before the horse, but should council say, we want to pursue the BMO building, certainly we're not going to have 21 million on hand to renovate the full site. However, what I would encourage is that we enter into a long-term lease agreement with leasehold improvements that they make the improvements for all the upper story, but we do the MEP as part of our base project. And if it looks at 2 floors, the top and the bottom floor, then we look at same thing, leasehold improvements for both. They get to design that space to meet their needs, but we address the MEP as a whole as part of our project.
And I'm assuming that they understand what those spaces look like in the fact that they have been updated.
Mhm.
They
To
could
some
actually
degree.
move in and set up shop without having to do.
Yeah, it's
whole
pretty
lot of
light
work.
renovation costs, especially if you look at any of the BMO tabs where that's renovation of admin and park rec space. The estimated costs are about $60 a square foot for the office space, as opposed to 250 a square foot for this building. Because
They are,
BMO building, it's mostly cosmetic, I would
yeah,
say.
I would say so.
Maybe a little bit of alignment of where walls are to create the appropriate office space.
The thing about the BMO is the elevator. That's the biggest, correct?
Well,
Well, unless you go with the heating.
I would say the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, lumping that all together is a huge
Okay.
cost associated with it. If you're looking at the total project cost, and this was a question that came up in today's community meeting, a question of cost breakdown, fire department versus the rest of the services. It is roughly 2/3 fire department, 1/3 administration park rec. For most of the projects. It does obviously get a little bit higher depending on the level of work, if BMO is the option chosen, and how much we do at BMO site.
That's great background, Travis, and I really appreciate all the work that you put into laying out these options and the costs. And I actually appreciate having the conservative numbers here. I feel like I hope that what we're looking at would be sort of the worst, like kind of if everything goes poorly and that we can get better numbers through actually administering this. I hope. It seems like we could. I'm still very attracted to the idea of finding a way to make a new home for many city services at the BMO building. I think that there's historical embodied wisdom in the fact that our city hall was once on Water Street historically, and that kind of accessibility and connection to the community we serve. It's hard to put a price on that. At the same time, and I've expressed this to Travis as well in private conversation, I'm really concerned about a building that's larger than our program needs dictates that we have as a city asset. And as heartened as I am to know that there's one potential renter, in the end, I doubt that the kinds of rents that we could justify charging, given the local market, would pay for the costs the city incurs in just providing the space. That is to say, do we really think that we can make a profit renting out the BMO building after spending city dollars rehabilitating it to a pretty high standard? And I think the answer is probably not. I suspect that in the end, this is going to be something that drags on the city's general budget for a long time. Even if things fall as well as they possibly could, and we have a great tenant with a 10-year lease from year one, I feel as if this is going to be a steady tax on the city's financial resources to pursue the BMO building. And I think, I'm not saying that's a deal breaker, but we shouldn't get so excited about a bathroom or community access or a really great notable position downtown where we can serve our community well. We shouldn't get so excited about that we lose track of the fact that we'd almost certainly be taking on a perpetual maintenance obligation that didn't make enough money from the rents we collected to pay for taking care of the spaces that we were renting out. That's one concern I have. We'd be extending the city's footprint without necessarily having a way to pay for it. And I'm not saying that to say we should just write this one off, but I do think as a council, there's not very much more information that our staff can give us to give them a clear sense of a direction we want to go in. And I think our community deserves the same thing. What from these options is the best one that we can tell our staff, let's chase this down. I'm curious, Travis, you've presented us a lot of great numbers. Does staff have a perspective on, what best aligns with what you've heard from council so far? Or do you feel as if the reason this is a hard decision is because it's a hard decision?
Well, that's why they pay you guys the big bucks.
Yeah.
Right? You guys get to make the hard decisions. So I am big on the numbers. I think council knows that, which is why, formulate not just the total estimated cost, but then, okay, what does that equate to on a per square foot basis? Right. We can look at a potential new construction project on the north side, which may have one of the lowest costs for the overall project, but as it was proposed, it's the highest cost on a per square foot basis. So that is one consideration that could potentially be offset, though, on the efficiencies you can gain in a new construction. There are so many hypotheticals and what ifs. I tried to entertain Winshik Energy District in trying to help me establish what are the potential cost savings on a more efficient energy system, heating, cooling system in this building versus what we could achieve in a new construction type scenario. And they said, there's just too many hypotheticals in this whole situation. We can't evaluate that. So I really try and dive hard into the numbers. I know several of you have brought up BMO in the past when it was Bank of the West, well over 2 years ago. Mayor, I know you brought it up to me. That was something you really wanted to see. And I pushed back quite a bit at the initial onset because traditional city planning would show that you don't want it right on your main street as a community. You don't want City Hall or another non-property tax generating property on your main street. You want them on the periphery. However, here's another consideration that I actually had somebody bring up in today's meeting as well, is that what is the likelihood that should BMO not be pursued by the city, it will always be BMO as it is today or vacant. From a private investor side, who is going to be in the position to acquire, because acquisition will be part of their costs, and then turn it around and renovate the space to then turn around and try and rent out the entire space to generate a profit? That's not going to happen. Right, or occupy the space. If you haven't been in the space right as it is today, the east half of the building, I'll call it, where their tellers and everybody is, that is a very unique space that bodes well to like large gathering spaces, or it's a very grand space. Like I think it's all 3 floors. It's 30-foot ceiling all the way up to the top with a stained glass dome that's got lights around it, so it looks like it's a skylight, but there's actually a roof over it. Just burst everyone's bubble. But it looks like a stained glass dome from downstairs. And again, it's a 30-foot ceiling. Who is going to use this space, or how do you modify that space cost effectively? So that was somebody had posed me that question, and they said that they thought I should point that out. I'm pointing it out tonight to council because I do think it's a very valid point. If it's not BMO, if they decide their drive-through location suffices just fine, or it is a large international bank, they might figure out as part of this discussion, wait a minute, we own 2 locations in Decorah, Iowa? No. So
I think I wouldn't have even, the only reason that I've had interest in that is the work that has already been done in that building to create meeting room spaces, create a large area, a large room for meetings, and that they have the whiteboard on. The other thing is, as soon as BMO went in, they put in fiber. When we went and looked and toured it, there were many places. I mean, I think there was at least, what'd you say, like maybe 14 offices? If you're looking upstairs and you're looking downstairs.
There's space everywhere.
And there is, but it's not just space. It's space that somebody could go into every one of those offices and set up shop
Mhm.
and start working, you know. And I feel bad in a sense that it hasn't gotten used to the extent that the people that put all the money in originally wanted it to have. I'm encouraged by the fact that, first of all, you've had what I've heard you say, at least one, but I hadn't heard the fact that there may be a business that's large enough that would want to use the majority of that, the newer part that's already redone,
Mhm.
which I think is encouraging.
Didn't you also say, Travis, today, I think that rental property goes for ballpark of $11 to $13 a square foot? Isn't that about the going rate?
Right, so that was the market rate that we used when we were talking about the potential for leasing space for admin park rec. When we were talking about new construction only of a fire department, $11 to $3 a square foot was what I had what I had realtors tell me is the going rate here for commercial space in Decorah.
I certainly appreciate Steve's conservative thoughts as far as the money is concerned. You know, I really understand that too. There's sometimes a time to look to see, you know, if you had more, what else could you do? And how do you look broader than just what we have right now? And I think that the potential of what that building brings is huge. I only remember when, and granted, it was a long time ago, when we really didn't think about adding on to the library either, you know. And once we started going, yeah, it was Randy knows that, it was a huge thing to decide to build onto that. But the value which with that brought to that library continues to give back and has been used in so many different ways already. So it's, you know, I understand the money part too, but it's not very often you get the potential of a building that has the value that that has, that can take you into the future as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you articulating that so well, Mayor. I do think that you do need to give some credibility to the fact that this is a very unique potential home for our city, and one that would be really well suited in a lot of ways for our community, I think. It's a great building, and it would, I hear you, Travis, it's better to have a taxable property and some of that valuable downtown land, but I also think there's some wonderful wisdom to being able to pop in and see your city working for you. I think that's nice. It'd be nice to drop off a water bill. I know Carrie likes that, you know, to make it easier to get checks to the clerk's office. I just, if we were on the board of a acquisition firm and we were considering purchasing this building, I just want everyone to be aware that the prospect would say that this isn't a great idea financially. That's the kind of clarity that I think we need to bring to this discussion.
But I think part of it too may be that you allow yourself to be able to think that way. And then as you go along, you're going to get, you know, signs or things that, no, this really isn't going to work out. But if you don't go out that route, you're not going to know that.
Yeah, I hear you, and I don't think it'd be the worst decision to ask staff to continue teasing out this idea with the leadership at BMO, because it may be that what they're anticipating getting for that property and what we are able to give are so far apart that's a very short conversation and we need to figure out what's next. So I don't mind that. At the same time, like, you know, I read on Facebook and I talk to people in the community. I'd like somehow at the end of this evening to have something clear to tell the community, like, hey, this is plan one, this is plan two. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
I personally would agree with that sentiment. A lot of what I've seen in regards to community outreach, not only to myself directly, but also within public space, I feel like, you know, when we started to have these conversations, we had some in-depth conversations and how we wanted to present this to the public. And I don't mean to pick on anybody right now, but you know, the school district and how people felt, that wasn't directly communicated to them. And I've seen more of that, you know, this time around with people communicating that to myself, whether it be directly to me or through different social media channels. And I know for a lot of us, we really didn't want to go that route this time around. And I feel like, yeah, we have all these great ideas that, you know, could lead to potential. But to Steve's point, I think that we really do need to solidify something down and be like, hey, this is essentially the plan, if you will.
I kind of like the option plan. Whether it's be 1, 2, not just, oh, let's just do this one. But then let there be a couple options versus just one.
Everybody needs a quick pick me up of sugar,
are you-
so I just thought I'd send that around.
Are you looking tonight to get us to rank these 5, like in order of preference of what we would think
Isn't it 3?
based on? what
Well,
5
there's
we
further
get?
breakdowns of what level of
Right.
BMO, but I don't know that I would go to the like
No.
breakout BMO of which one you'd want to prioritize.
Okay.
I would, I do think there is value in the council trying to prioritize which one we want to see happen first and foremost. But as Stephen pointed out, this is a potential real estate transaction, that there's so many things that could go wrong along this way that even if everyone up here says that's my preferred, it might still not happen, even if it's the number one priority. So I do also get that it's a double-edged sword that if council says, well, that's our preferred, but we can't make it happen. So we move on to number 2. I just know that's some of the feedback we've gotten from members of the public, whether it's been different meetings I've gone to, but they want to know, well, what is the city going to do? And again, to Christopher's point, I'm not trying to pick on the school by any means, but that is what I do have people reference, that, you know, they want to make sure that we're going to do what we say we're trying to do.
Is there, I know some people are able to tour. Is there ability to set up for the people that haven't looked at it
I'll try again.
to look at it?
The staff got a little excited after our last one. There may have been an accidental slip of the tongue in one of the media reports that was the former BMO building.
Oh, no.
And so we had a couple staff members, I'm not sure which one it was. We had a couple staff members call City Hall and be like, what? I'm out of a job? No.
Well, even if they can just get in to look at the floors, you know, as they are, not go up on the roof, not go
Yeah,
up
you
on the
can
thing.
easily go into the main level and enter the lobby space. And I mean, you can stand in the middle of BMO and see the half on the main floor that's not utilized at all. And then the other half that is just the teller in the front space. And you can certainly see that east side that I talked about with the stained glass dome. The lower levels, you can still see a decent amount of it. You obviously can't get way back into the hallways and see all the offices along that east side corridor. But one of the things another uniqueness about this location, and this, I believe it's in the sustainability plan as well. I'm trying to remember where pop-up shops have come up and a goal of someone's. But anyway, in the arcade level, if you walk through there, pay attention to it'd be the east wall. There are 3 locations that are, 2 of which are exposed roll-up windows. And the third one is actually like corkboard over top of one. But those are 3 like 12 by 14 rooms with their own individual service window. So that would be, again, this is just thinking out loud. That would be an ideal location for like a pop-up shop, business incubator style. You know, you pay $100 a month in rent for this space to be able to go in, roll your window up and sell whatever it is you're selling out of the lower level. I mean, and you got a pretty captive audience for those going from North Alley through to the top side or dropping off their water bills. Just don't serve coffee because, you know, there's enough coffee.
We have 8 or 9 of those.
Enough coffee in proximity, but if it's right in the building, it might be an even bigger issue.
And
Brent, I think you brought up a valid point, though. I think for those of us that have seen the building, the interior of it, you're amazed at the amount of space that actually exists within the interior of that building, and how many different rooms there are. So I think it would be good if everybody could get an opportunity to see it.
And I should probably point out, so the MEP side, that was actually something I was also pretty taken back by, was
Say what that is.
mechanical, electrical,
Oh, yeah,
and plumbing.
thank you.
So the HVAC side of it is all fairly new. The chiller was 2020, I believe. The oldest part of it was the air handling system, which had individual like motors, blowers, and stuff replaced throughout the years. But the guts of it were all circa 1970. Roof was an immediate replacement. But other than that, the boiler system was 2022, if I remember correctly.
Fairly recent. most
Yeah,
of it.
so a lot of it is fairly recent, but of that MEP cost, it's largely again going to be electrical and plumbing that's unknown situations and moving those all within walls.
I did hear Emily clearly say that she was interested in continuing to pursue the BMO project. I don't want to close the door on it yet tonight, even though I'm the one who's maybe spoken against it most forcefully, given my concerns at the albatross it could be for the city financially in the long term. So I guess unless someone else wants to say, no, we need to close the door on this, I personally feel like I want to keep it open. And maybe that's enough for tonight in terms of the BMO building, and we should turn our attention to what if that doesn't go forward? What's our preference? Is that, or do others want to keep speaking about the BMO building?
I would agree with that.
No, I'm definitely in favor of keeping the idea of it open or whatever to pursue, see where we end up with this thing or whatever, see if it's a viable option.
Well, by November 5th, you're going to be able to maybe
Or
see.
go on it, Randy?
Well, we meet November 3rd.
I agree with what Steve's saying about the albatross, but also looking at like our population growth or lack thereof. We're not bringing in businesses. I mean, it's just kind of it's such a big investment. And there's no guarantees. I mean, you can get a long-term lease, but somebody can break that too pretty easily to get out for, their business sells out, they're gone. It's more catering to a insurance type company or investment type company. So, I mean, they trade hands quite often and move on. And they have in there. I mean, they've had different businesses in the arcade and on the second floor over the years. So, I mean, they come and go. I mean, I'm not totally opposed to it. It would be cool. There aren't too many institutions or businesses around here that could fill it. I've always joked with John that they should just trade buildings because they could fill up all 3 floors with their law firm. And
Is there
Maybe-
enough room on the side for all the names?
yes, you could put A to Z on there.
Does that work, John?
But, and they could fill up their office right now with their people. But, all joking aside, it is an interesting option.
Mhm.
Is it viable? That's going to be the next question, without hard plans going forward, like everybody keeps referencing the school, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we thought we had an agreement. Now all of a sudden we come out with something totally different than what we had talked about. I'm not sure people, I, I don't know where the support is.
Well, one thing is that if people know that we're looking at viable options, I know that they want, the school got in trouble because they stated, we're not stating, we're saying we're looking at these options as potential, you know. We know we want the fire station, new fire station to be back where it is. And part of it is making sure that people know that the new fire station would be a new building that's back. Because I know I've had questions, okay, does it look like this whole thing?
Right,
Does
no,
that mean they're
that's-
gonna replace this?
Right. But when
But to
you,
be more clear that way.
but when both of the issues are tied together, the
Mm.
fire station and city hall on one issue.
Yeah, I know.
And we're the ones that are waffling back and forth. Do we want to build new? Do we want to renovate here? Do we want to buy and renovate? You know, it's just kind of wishy
I
washy.
think, my enthusiasm for the potential.
Well, yeah, and I
Mm.
see that too.
But like it said, you're gonna know that between now, what do we got, 2 weeks before the election?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks,
15 days.
yeah. Part of it, do you think that you're gonna have a more solid if you just say, yes, we're just doing this and not thinking of being more?
Well, I don't know. I
Okay.
can't predict.
Okay.
What
If I had that, I'd buy 6 numbers and buy an island in the Caribbean and adios all y'all.
I always kidded about having a good racehorse and bringing the money, but
what's sometimes easier, and I
Hmm.
did put this in the background notes too, is there one of the options right now that you would point at and say, no, I don't think we should do that? Or is right now, sometimes that's easier than, yes, this is what we should be doing. But I don't know that there is a clear runner here, honestly.
well, one of them is a new construction of the fire department. They all are like that.
Construction.
Okay.
And I think it's important for the community to understand that in all of these options, the new construction for the fire department is the most expensive factor. It's the thing that's driving the bus on the rest of these things. And that however, we are able to sort of move forward, almost all the money that the community's bonding for, the great majority is going to pay for new construction for our fire response. That's pretty accurate. I
About
think.
2/3.
Yeah, 2/3. That's a lot. So I feel like
That would pass a bond referendum vote.
we just need
2/3.
to kind of keep that clear that this is a vote largely for a new fire station, and then the question is what do we do with the rest of City Hall? And there are some good options on the table. I think, I guess if staff heard me say loudly and clearly, like, yeah, let's keep pursuing the BMO, but I don't necessarily want to fill that entire footprint with a bunch of feel-good city projects. I think we need to be looking at market rate rental tenants to make the numbers work. And if there's an empty, conference room that we use for a training one time and it's really convenient, but then someone else wants to give us money every month to use it, we should give it to that other person. We need the money more than we need the excessive space.
This would be a potential option. I think it's a good option. What about the potential of condoing off the top floor and sell it off as a penthouse?
Okay, I think we have to be on target here.
Just
gotta
saying,
get-
that's
I
also
I know.
certainly an option
Yeah,
that I've
that
seen
is.
some other properties with a similar mindset that end up being a multi-million-dollar investment.
Yeah, I think those are the kinds of options we can leave on the table in terms of becoming a landlord at BMO or even an investor, like that the city doesn't have designs on all 27,000 square feet. And we need to, that's what I just really want to be clear about, that we want 9,000 and we need to be thoughtful and smart and fiscally responsible with the other 18,000 square feet. That's all.
It sounds like we kind of have consensus then that everybody's interested in leaving BMO on the table, so to speak, as an option pending what Travis finds out further down the road. Of the other two options, do people have preferences as to which one of those would take priority over the What was the other one? Basically, it's building completely new fire station and admin offices as well, or the other one would be renovate City Hall, but build a new fire station.
I think with the inherent dangers, I'd do all new
All new.
for as close as the prices are.
Right, right. They're not a whole lot of difference.
Same.
There's a couple things that Travis said earlier too. In terms of, did you mention environmental, like LEED certification and things like that?
We've talked about that in the past, you know, as we get into those further design elements. I can't remember to whose point made the comment about, you know, we don't have concrete plans for, you know, whether it's new construction or 27,000 square foot of BMO. We
Mhm.
don't have plans. And really, this is something talked about in public meetings as well. But to get to that point, that's like $300,000 plus or minus. And that isn't exactly a great fiscally responsible choice to make in advance of a bond referendum. So to the school's credit, I do get not having plans to show the public and say, hey, here's what we will build this, as in here's our blueprints. But we also want to make sure the public's well informed of what our intentions are in support of that bond referendum discussion. So we don't have plans necessarily on that, but I know that's been a consideration that whether it's been council members have voiced it, sustainability commission members have certainly voiced it. Actually, if you notice the graphic that says conceptual image, not necessarily design on, I think there's a couple of the mailings over there. It actually shows a passive solar roof design so that it's got a sloped roof, no flat roof, but it's got transom windows with an overhang that allows in the winter for that sun. Anyway, those are possible elements. But again, it will come down to bottom line as well on long-term costs versus upfront construction costs.
I think it's important to have the sheriff's department, the PD, and emergency management consideration as well. They are as tight as everything else. And if you're going to be building new, how do you, partner with that in some fashion? I know that that's hard, but. Okay, so let's see. Is that enough for you?
All I would ask is that if council members, if you think of additional information that would help make this decision, like I've already asked for the one person that's been talking to me about possible lease options, how many square footage are they thinking? So that I can then show, all right, at, a range between 10 and $13 a square foot, here's potential revenue. It'd be a triple net lease, so the taxes would stay on. They'd have to pay this every year. Anyway, I've asked for additional information, try and put that together. But if you come up with something that, hey, Travis, if I knew this, this would really help me kind of either prioritize or eliminate, please let me know. But also understand that that might not exist. Like if you say, I really need to know what it's going to cost to heat and cool a brand new construction next door, I don't know, because there's so many design elements that contribute to that.
I think I do want to make a comment about the first meeting we had today, in the sense we had 22 people here.
Yeah.
Travis did a great job. They came up with questions I never thought they would. Really, really good questions.
Nothing was thrown.
No.
It was a win.
Somebody said they thought they were really pretty much thought no, but now they're thinking more yes. But we do have another one tomorrow night, and that is from 6
to 7.
6 to 7. And then we have one on Wednesday from 9 until 10.
Correct.
Okay.
And I want to be clear. This is an educational meeting where I talk about the numbers and the facts behind the situation. Does include a brief tour, which based on some of the feedback today, I will talk less. We will tour more.
Yeah.
So
that helped.
Yeah, you laugh.
I have a question real quick. I know that it's too late and we have the language already and we don't know all the details on like what BMO would be, but is there a way for future projects? Is there a way that we could leave the ranked choice like voting up to the public? Like, could we say, these are options that we're looking at? What does the community think?
Maybe we want to check and see.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because the state of Iowa has a list of things you can do as a referendum without it being like a bond there's a couple of things that it spells out in code, but it's not like a carte blanche where you can say, we want this question on the ballot just to see what our public thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Can't necessarily do that.
No, and I'm trying to think how you could do anything besides like a yes, no type question.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
We could do, instead of a vote, you can do, there are polling companies that you could use, whether we want to do phone polls, whether we want to do sample mailing.
Mhm.
You mail out to 400 properties, you get responses from half those.
Yeah.
Statistically, it's a pretty accurate sample size for a community our size,
Mhm.
maybe a few more than that. But
That's something you maybe think about as we're going to have to see how it's sort of like you got one step at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go on to, I believe, item number 8. If I'm not mistaken.
we'll just bounce around. Somebody says we missed something, we'll go.
Okay. Consider resolution accepting deed to Lot 3 in Bruning's 3rd Edition Military Boulevard. Can you give information on that?
Yes, so Military Boulevard is the west of the frontage road in front of Country Inn Suites that continues up to
VA clinic.
the VA clinic. I attached
I didn't see
or excuse
anything.
me, actually, you know what I did? So the resolution that I did on this for
This was High Point
uh,
East.
Oh, John is circling resolution over here, but this is a note for, did the council want to consider, if we are backing up an item, did the council want to consider a resolution voicing its support of voting one way or another to the public?
Which one is that?
So backing up one more agenda item. Sorry. I said it in my background notes, but we moved on from it. This could have also included any vote if the council wants to say, we encourage the public to get out and vote one way or another.
Back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
The state, the government is still allowed to voice its opinion as a whole on this matter, and it's not a violation. Whereas if I go to a meeting during the day and I tell somebody individually, vote one way or another, I can't do that as a governmental employee using governmental resources. However, the council as a board, as a commission council, can say, we encourage you to vote one way or another on this topic. Do you want to approve a resolution that says vote yes? Resolution says vote no, or let it go.
So just let the people decide.
What would the resolution, would that be published? Like, is that what you're?
It would be a simple, the council, we
Feel
support,
strongly.
where we support the continued pursuit of these options, where these options will accommodate our current and future needs within the different departments affected. Therefore, we would encourage the public to vote. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we encourage the public to vote yes, vote no.
It's just not saying we encourage the community to vote yes for the bond.
Yeah, I do believe, and I think John's looking over here to verify. I do think it needs to be by resolution, if I remember right.
Yeah, I'm double checking.
double
If you're
check.
looking at the time period between now and the vote,
Oh, I thought you meant between now and 10 o'clock, which is our
well, you're
council
gonna be,
rules if we're done.
we're gonna be done by
Yeah.
then.
so the law,
I always have
oh,
thoughts.
well, yeah,
I always have
the,
thoughts.
the city can express an opinion on a ballot issue through the passage of a resolution or a proclamation according to Iowa Code 68A.505.
Or proclamation. So you just wanted to do a simple majority vote of the mayor to proclaim that you should vote one way or another, you could do that as well. Or you could let it go.
Haven't we stated that by putting it out there?
That's why I said, or you could let it go.
Do we have do we have an action item on the agenda that we can do this?
The discussion, possible action on
Okay,
the municipal
alright.
building fits under
Just
that.
checking with the wording of that to make sure we're legal.
Yeah, we did have a council member ask about the potential for this, so.
I think it's important that we make a statement about it. So I'd make a motion that we make a proclamation.
Proclamation.
Encouraging the community to vote in favor of the bond referendum so we can
Right.
build a new fire
Making a
station.
motion on that.
Yep. Make that motion.
Okay.
So proclamation comes from you, Mayor. We can
Oh,
help.
good.
but
Okay.
we can
We
help.
have a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Olson, second by Zittergruen for creating a proclamation by the mayor for voting on the bond issue.
Didn't we already do this when you passed the bond the thing to do a bond?
I
Well, this
think
is your
so.
formal stance to vote yes. That's what's being considered right now.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call?
I do have discussion, Mayor, if you don't mind. Thanks. I can appreciate that I have colleagues who maybe say, you know, we did our job, we did the research, we found out how much this project would cost. We put it before the community and we asked them directly, and now we look forward to hearing the community's feedback. That's direct democracy and it's really good. I think if we vote in favor of this and speak vociferously in favor of this, speak fervently in favor of this bond proposal, this resolution we're putting in the community, then I think we're saying what is true, which is we did look at alternatives. Like, we looked very hard to find ways to do this for much less than what we're proposing the community spend on this. And in 2025, there's not really a good way to build a appropriately sized fire station and admin office for anything other than what we're asking the community to authorize doing. So this is what it costs, and this is the community's choice, but I think we should encourage them to do it because the need is real.
Okay.
Plan, it's hard to ask
Right.
people for $18 million.
Okay. Roll call?
Olson.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Neal's off. Parker.
Aye.
Misselinich.
Aye.
Jizzle.
No.
Whittle.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. All right, let's continue with the rest of this meeting. Consider resolution accepting deed to Lot 3 in Bruning's 3rd Edition Military Boulevard. Can you get background on this, please?
Yes. So what's funny enough is John wrote resolution on the side here in question mark. And so I handed out a resolution that was supposed to have an added paragraph about the acceptance of no, this is right. If we're just getting too late. I didn't have lunch till 4:30. That's why I still had some of it here, but never mind. High Point East, we're good. Everyone had that draft in front of them when it was considered. With Military Boulevard, this the infrastructure's been in place. They've met their requirements. It's been constructed as required by the preliminary plat. Final plat's already been accepted. And that's where John made reference that I need to add that paragraph in High Point East about we don't accept it at the time of final plat. It just creates the lot, and then we accept it later. That's what we're doing right now for Military Boulevard, Lot 3, Bruning's Edition.
Okay, I just want to be clear. This is up in the corner, like where Bruning has a house.
No.
No.
No, that's what I want to make clear.
This is what leads to the VA.
This frontage road in front of Country Inn going around to the VA clinic,
There.
that
Yep.
corner.
Okay,
Where
thank
we had
you.
issues getting,
because I didn't know if that street went all the way, could potentially go all the way around down there. Do you see do you
As
see where I'm
the
at?
VA clinic, it does have potential that it could wrap and continue up the hillside there, but it deadheads right at the right past the parking lot.
Right. And that's the
Okay.
part we'd be accepting today anyway.
Okay,
Is
okay.
the road portion, yep, which is platted as lot 3.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Zittergren, seconded by Chisel. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance amending chapter 17.28 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding dimensional variances for the Board of Adjustment. This is the third reading.
I'd move to approve and adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Olson. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Zittergren. Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider an ordinance on amending chapters 17.68, 17.72, 17.76 of the Decorah Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units, third reading.
I'd move to approve and adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Miscelinich to approve and adopt. Roll call.
I just want to say it's stupid.
Say that again?
I think it's dumb, Mayor. I think
Okay.
this whole thing is dumb.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Zittergren.
It's dumb. Aye.
Really? Okay. Consider us, oh no, we did
That's
that.
I
one.
think we're good.
We're done.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, no,
Boards and
we're down to
vacancies.
15.
Okay.
For 14.
Yeah, don't forget.
All right, we're on board, commission and vacancies. I did go to the two vacancies on the Human Rights Commission. I did go to sustainability. They would like more information on the missions of the Human Rights Commission. That was one take. There was another take that said, if the city council says you need to take this on, then we have to take it on. So we have to take back to them what the mission and such of the Human Rights Commission is. I did point out their main mission that it used to be is no longer applicable. So one vacancy on the tree board. I think I might have somebody for that. Other matters? No.
To adjourn.
Be kind.